Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter Podcast. All the news in the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter Podcast, where we talk about the latest boxing news. If it's related to boxing, we'll talk about it here. My name is Eric Lorton. I'm here with my co-host, Ringside Robert, and England's adopted son, Joe Habib. We have a great show for you today. As always, you can catch us on the web at www.ringsidereporter.com. If you want to call and ask some questions or just give your 2 cents, you can call us right now at 323-870-3857. Hit option 1 if you want to talk to us, and we'll be here till about 9 p.m. tonight. Today, we're going to talk about Andre Ward. He doesn't seem very anxious to give Sergey Kovalev his rematch. We'll give you all the details. And if you recall, speaking of the Andre Ward situation, there was a bet that took place before the fight with Beeb and Georgie Porgie. Georgie Porgie loses, and he pays up, and he will get pied, and we will show you the video.
From this day, you'll be my new fool.
That's right. That's right. The welterweight fantasy tournament is back with the one we've been waiting for, Thomas Hitman Hearns versus Sugar Ray Robinson. There you go. But first, we get started with No Mas 2, Vasyl Lomenchenco versus Nicholas Walters. The WBO super featherweight champion Vasyl Lomenchenko scored a one-sided 7-round TKO over previously unbeaten former world champion Nicholas the Axeman Walters. The Axeman got axed in this one. This was in Vegas last night. Lomachenko completely dominated every aspect of this fight. He was better offensively. He was better defensively. He hit Walters whenever he wanted. Walters was powerless to do anything about it. We have seen Walters a number of times, and we have never seen this. Walters was undefeated coming into this fight. I thought Lomachenko was going to win. I thought he was going to win convincingly, but this was like landslide, man. Lomachenko is definitely a top-level fighter, and by top level, I don't see anybody, in the division that can even come close to giving him a challenge. I really don't. At the end of round 7, Nicholas Walters told the referee he didn't want to continue. His cornerman also agreed and said no mas. Incidentally, it was 36 years ago, almost to the day, that the famous no mas fight between Leonard and Duran took place. That fight ended in the 8th round. Duran from Panama. Walters lives in Panama. How about that? How eerie is that? Think about that. I'm not going to pile on Nicholas Walters by saying he quit the fight, but he did. I mean, that's a fact. He told the referee he did not want to continue. That's quitting the fight. That being said, I'm not going to ridicule him for quitting the fight. That fight was unwinnable for him. He was not going to beat Lomachenko, and he knew it. You could see he was frustrated, and Lomachenko was starting to find the range and land harder punches. And he took a lot of abuse after this fight on social media from everybody and their mother. I mean, anyone who wants to pile on and ridicule him for quitting should really think about what they're saying. Unless you've been in that position before, you should probably hang on to your opinion on this matter, man. It's a very hard thing being across from somebody who is completely dismantling you and you can't stop it. When you're in there, you have no chance. I mean, it just is. I mean, unless you've boxed or sparred before, I don't want to hear your opinion on it, whether he quit or not, or you saying he's a coward for quitting. Unless you've been in there before, I don't want to hear it from you. This is like you complaining about complaining about the president and not voting. You really don't have a say here. So that being said, Beeb, what did you think of Lomachenko's performance, and subsequently, what did you think of Walter's performance?
Well, first of all, I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with your compassionate side. I've never seen that before, and I really like that because, I'm always the one that shows empathy towards the fighters a lot of times when people are just dumping on them. And it's good to, see someone else on the same page as me, because I've been in there before and I've felt punches, and I know how it is when someone is just better than you and there's nothing you can do to prevent them from beating on you. And this was the same case. The thing about this whole fight was it was being sold to us by HBO as a 50-50 fight. And none of us on this panel thought that it was anything close to being a 50-50 fight. And that's taking nothing away from Walters. We thought possibly that Walters would bring a little bit more. It would be a little bit more competitive. But at the end of the day, we knew that Lomachenko was going to be a sharpshooter in there. And the beautiful thing about Lomachenko is he does a little and he gets a huge return on the little thing that he does. So all he has to do is make a little subtle half step there, a little subtle half step there, dip a little bit here, twist a little bit here, and he can make you miss by inches, and he knows how to just position himself perfectly to line up those shots from the outside. And Nicholas Walters reminds me a lot of Felix Trinidad and Nonito Donaire, and the fact that he's front foot heavy, loves to unload that left hook. That's the money punch from him. And, guys that generally fight that way, they need to really set their feet and dig into the canvas to crank that left hook up. Because if you notice, Felix Trinidad didn't like guys who moved a lot and constantly made him reset. Nonito Donaire is another one who doesn't like to have to constantly reset, because they're set shooters. Just like in basketball, you have set shooters and you have guys who can stop and pop. Lomachenko can stop and pop. He can just, move and set himself real quick and unload real quick. And he's a master of all ranges. He can fight you up close, mid-range, and at a distance. But where he's particularly dangerous is from the outside, because he's really great at gauging range from the outside, number one. And number two, he can throw those straight punches like a dart. And he's a pinpoint, accurate, precision type puncher. So he was able to just, constantly make Walters reset, take him out of that mid-range area where he likes to be able to crank that hook. And once, you take that left hook away from Walters, you kind of, minimize him to some degree. And he minimized him a lot last night, because he took that punch away from the whole fight practically. And Walters was not able to deal with the speed, deal with the little subtle movement. And he wasn't able to, get in his comfort zone and set his feet and crank up punches like he likes to do. Was he getting beat up? It's mentally taxing on you when you're in there and you're trying to do things and everything you try to do isn't working. So right then and there, you're mentally defeated. And that takes a lot out of you. That frustration round after round after round of having to deal with being in there with someone that just can nullify everything you do. So that in itself, as I said, wears on you. So that was probably wearing on him round after round. Just the mental anguish, not even the physical anguish. And that's something people don't always realize, because they say boxing is mental as well as physical. And a lot of people say it's more mental than it is physical. So, with that being said, I agree to 110%. There was nothing he could have done, for him to win this fight. But it's just the timing of it all, the seventh round. It wasn't at a point where he was really getting pummeled. He was getting picked apart here and there. But, he didn't look terribly hurt. Again, we're not taking the shot. So it's like you could sit there and drip of water on someone's forehead 100 times, and after a while it's going to hurt. So it could have been just having to deal with the volume round after round of getting hit, and not being able to stop the punches. So after a while, that probably does do some damage to you. Obviously, it must. It doesn't matter how hard of a puncher you are, and Lomachenko can crack a bit. So whether or not he was staggered, whether or not he got knocked down, whether or not he was wobbled, whether or not he was woozy at any point in this fight, that doesn't really matter. But he was getting tagged, and he was getting tagged clean over and over and over again. And I'm sure that is debilitating as well. So, that coupled up with just the mental anguish, the mental frustration, and just being mentally dissected and taken apart, I can understand why he didn't want to continue. And I'm not going to dump on him either. But the problem I had was what he was saying after the fight, blaming the long layoff, basically not giving Lomachenko full credit for this victory, which I think he should have done. So that kind of did not sit well with me, and that kind of added to, the whole problem of him stopping, where a lot of people didn't like that. I think more so the dialogue after the fight really made it bad, really made it worse. It was like when Victor Ortiz said, I don't deserve this. Well, I mean, okay, what do you mean you don't deserve this? Other people are in there taking punches, so only you're the one that doesn't deserve this? And, this is the nature of sport. So I don't care anytime someone stops fighting. But sometimes the things they say after they stop fighting can leave a bad taste in my mouth as well as other fans. So this left a bad taste on off. I was on the shelf. I needed a couple fights. Well, you know what? This fight was offered to you several times, a year ago, whatever. So, you wanted other fights. That's fine. But Bob Arum can't just put you in there with anybody and sell it to HBO and expect HBO to buy the fight and put you on HBO. So if you wanted some lower level fights to get you ready for this, then maybe you could have took, a couple tune-ups off air or whatever. So I don't know the situation. I kind of feel that you wanted to be on HBO. He's an HBO fighter, and most of his fights all his fights have been on HBO. So was this a case of him just wanting to fight any Tom, Dick, and Harry and expect HBO to put it on prime time? So it was to the point where, yeah, he didn't like the money that was offered originally for this fight. So he kind of sat on the shelf because of it. But if he took it right away, he wouldn't have had to be on the shelf. And if you wanted the tune-ups, take the tune-ups, do whatever you got to do. Sean Porter had a sparring session, live on I think it was on a network somewhere, someplace, whatever. So it wasn't like he was looking to break the bank or whatever. He just wanted to get ready for Keith Thurman or whatever. So he did that. So what you do to prepare yourself for Vasyl Lomenchenko, that's on you. It's not up to the promoter to get you ready for Lomachenko. It's up to you, the fighter, to get ready for Lomachenko. So if you want to do sparring, you want to do some low-level fights, whatever, you want to take some tune-ups, that's on you. But don't expect the promoter to have to force-feed HBO to buy those fights for you. So it's your own fault that you were on the shelf. So you have no one to blame but yourself. Lomachenko fought anyone they put in front of him. So it's not like he was being – he fought Solito. He fought Gary Russell. He fought some tough guys, Rocky Martinez. So he's already been through the gauntlet. So, the same should be expected from you as well. So, once you reach that level and you start asking for gimmies, it is what it is. Don't expect people to accept it, and don't expect the promoter to accept it, and don't expect the network to, accept it. So that's on you. So that's what kind of bothered me at the end of this fight. And this reminded me of the Joshua Clottey fight with Pacquiao, where, Joshua Clottey had his hands in his pocket against Pacquiao. And then, after the fight, he was doing an interview with some African website or something. And he was basically saying, I thought I was going to get $1 million for the fight. And leading up to the week of the fight, I found out I was only going to get $500,000. So mentally that affected me. I wasn't motivated. And come fight night, I didn't even want to be there because I wasn't happy with what I was getting paid. So basically he was saying not in so many words, because I didn't like what I was getting paid, I didn't put out the full effort. And I thought Nicholas Walters gave us every indication that was the same case with him. So, you're complaining about being on the shelf, and then, you say the things you said after the fight, so the fans aren't going to like it. More importantly, the promoter's not going to like it because you kind of hosed the promoter. The promoter was trying to sell this as a real interesting, exciting fight on paper, and then you basically said, well, you weren't ready for the fight, and you didn't really, you weren't 100%. So you took the fight knowing that you really weren't 100%, and in your mind, mentally, you weren't really prepared for this fight. And a lot of this had to do with the money situation leading up in the several months beforehand. So that's the problem. So if you were complaining about being put on the shelf, prior to this fight, you didn't do yourself any benefit after this fight to ensure that you're not going to get put on the shelf in the future. So I don't know what's going to happen. We've seen Joshua Clottey after that Pacquiao fight. He disappeared. He didn't get a fight from Bob Arum anymore because of the way he fought and because of the things he said after the fight. So, I suspect that Nicholas Walters could be in that same situation because Nicholas Walters, just like Joshua Clottey, both those guys aren't household names. So they don't have a lot of leverage with promoters and with networks. So basically, you take what the promoter gives you and what the network gives you. So you weren't really in a position to turn down that Lomachenko fight several months prior. So this is what happened. So I just think, all in all, I don't see a happy ending to the Nicholas Walters story after this fight, number one, and after the things he said, number two. So I know that was a long-winded rant, but there was a lot of stuff I had to get out there.
Well, I'm glad that Eric has sympathy for Nicholas Walters. Beeb, you made some very good points, but frankly, he stuck out the joint last night. He basically showed up, and see, I'm glad you filled in some of the blanks, because it was obvious from round number one that Nicholas Walters was being outclassed. He basically could have quit at any time. And basically, look, I've never boxed. I'm incapable of doing that anyway. But it basically looked like, okay, I'm not getting paid what I want. I don't care what happens. I'll take my beating for a few rounds, and when I've had enough, I'll let the referee know that I quit. And that's basically what happened. And I hope, honestly, after last night's performance, we don't see the Axeman on United States TV until he earns the privilege. And I would not blame Bob Arum if he does the same thing to Nicholas Walters that he wound up doing to Joshua Quaddy, just permanently freezing him on the shelf and making sure that he never fights again. You cannot, whether you're unhappy with your payment or not, you cannot go out on TV and basically put up a performance that says, well, I'm not happy about being here. And on the other hand, I feel bad for Lomachenko, because Lomachenko did not get the kind of fight that he expected out of his opponent. Yes, he thoroughly dominated. There was no doubt about that. But because your opponent is not putting out the best effort, that affects your performance. And I hope that we see Lomachenko in against somebody that actually can give him a fight now, because, Walters was first offered this fight in April, from what I understand, and Walters said, "No, I'm not getting paid enough. I don't want it." So he takes it 7 months later and gives us what he gave us. I'll be more than happy to put Nicholas Walters in the Victor Ortiz category, because that's basically what he did. He showed up and told the fans, "You know what? I don't care about you. I'm not getting paid enough. I'll take what I'm going to take, and then I'll leave when I'm ready." And that's what he did. And it sucks.
Do you really think that's the case, though? I mean, would it have made a difference if he was getting $2 million for the fight? I mean, really? I mean, he was getting pounded and outclassed in that fight.
I think Eric, I think he would have lost either way. But I think if he would have got paid what he wanted, and believe me, I'm not supporting, by the way, that he should get paid what he wanted. But let's say he got the salary he wanted, he might have been able to put up a better effort. I don't think he would have beat him anyway, because after last night, I'm convinced that Vasyl Lomenchenko is probably the best fighter out there. And I don't know if he'll ever be able to fight Roman Gonzalez or not. I don't know if that will ever happen. But, I think he's proven now that he can be in against anybody and do whatever he wants. I mean, they're talking about Pacquiao with him. I don't know if that'll ever happen or not, but let's see what he does now, because it looks like he's going to dominate 130.
Yeah.
The thing is this, Eric, because you asked the question, would it have made a difference? Would it have made a difference in him winning the fight? No, but the difference that it would have made is he gave every indication in that post-fight interview that he mentally checked out before the first bell even rang. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't. If he's going to say, well, I needed all these fights beforehand to get myself ready, and for him not taking that fight back in April because of the money and this and that, there was a lot of, he was disgruntled. He gave me the indication. And again, I'm not in his head. I'm not a psychologist. He gave me every indication that beforehand he was disgruntled. And because he was disgruntled, he was not mentally focused on this fight. And whether or not he would have won it or not, I think he could have done better. I mean, I'm not in there, and I'm not taking anything away from Lomachenko, but I think he could have done better if his head was in the game, which I don't think his head was in the game, not even a little bit for this fight. So that's the problem. And by him not having his head in the game, this is the performance he put forth, and it's not going to win him any new fans. If he went out in the Shield like an Arturo Gatti has gone out in the Shield, like a Mickey Ward has gone out in the Shield, and I'm not saying he had to stand in there and get beat up, because that wasn't the case. But the thing is it didn't look like he wanted it, not even a little bit. And that's the problem a lot of fans are going to have, because, he just was saying that he needed 2-up fights and he was complaining about the money beforehand. There was just too many other outside distractions going on that he was bringing up after the fight that he wasn't really saying in the fighter meetings with Roy Jones. He was telling them, hey, the layoff isn't going to matter. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to knock him out. He was doing all this bravado before the fight. And then I understand that that's what fighters do. And usually after the fight, they can come up with excuses. But the thing is his excuses showed that they provided a reason for his performance during the fight. And it was all mental. So that's the problem. I don't think he would have won the fight, but I think he could have at least, put forth a better effort. You know what I'm saying? We didn't see him grit his teeth at all in that fight. You didn't see that ferocity that this guy usually brings to the ring. So that's the problem.
Yeah, I think that
he acted like he didn't care.
Well, I tell you what, my first reaction is when he said all that stuff after the fight. I had layoffs and blah, blah, blah. He's embarrassed. I mean, you think about how embarrassing that was for him. He's a professional fighter. Not only is he a professional fighter, he's a pretty good one. He's unbeaten, former champion. And just to get dismantled like that with a guy with 7 fights, 8 fights. Well, yeah, 7 fights at the time. He had 7 fights going in, maybe 7 or 8 fights going in. And just being dismantled like that. And I mean, he looked like an amateur out there. Now he shouldn't even have been in the same ring with this guy. It was reminiscent to me of when Roberto Duran cried, stomach cramps. I had cramps, so I couldn't fight. He didn't have cramps. He just quit. And that was and that was the sense of it. So that, I thought a lot of that was excuses. He knows he got handled, I mean, everybody saw what happened. He saw what happened. And I don't think any amount of money would have changed how hard he tried. Because I think he tried last night. I really do. I just think he was just completely and thoroughly outclassed. Look at Rocky Martinez in Lomachenko's last fight against Martinez. That's a guy that went, 2 or 3 wars with Salido. And I mean, that was a back and forth fight.
Yeah.
Salido beat, Lomachenko. So you said, man, Martinez has got a real good shot here. He got destroyed every minute of every round, and then finally got knocked out. And not just knocked out, sprawled out, KO, count to 10. It's done.
But he was throwing punches, Eric.
He was, and he got clipped. He got clipped. He was trying. He did his best. But Walters, I think when Walters figured out that he couldn't land those big shots, and when Walters figured out after like that 2nd or 3rd round that he wasn't going to land those big shots, it was, mentally he was done. I mean, and I don't care how much money you threw at him prior to. And as far as the ring rust goes and everything, I mean, maybe that played a factor. Who knows? It didn't look like it played a factor, but whatever, I just saw on the post-fight, I saw a guy trying to make excuses, and he just, when I saw him after the fight, man, it was just like, wow, that, the people, the thing I feel bad about for this whole thing are the fans that paid money to see this fight. Whether you're paying your HBO subscription or whether you're there live, paying for this fight, and his promoter Bob Arum has got to be just livid right now, because that's a guy who tried to sell this as a competitive fight, but then and then they put on this and he quits in the middle of it, so all these people who paid all this money to watch this fight got to see this, and it's like it's very unsatisfying for them, and so I feel for them, but I also feel for Walters too for being in that situation, man. That's a tough thing.
On the other hand, Eric, it looks like Lomachenko is going to be able to dominate 130. I mean, do you see anybody in that weight class that's going to give him any issues?
Well, let's talk about that for a second. All right, so let's talk about this. As far as what's next for Lomachenko, realistically, okay. They were talking about Pacquiao. Pacquiao 17 pounds north at 147. All right, everybody forgets Lomachenko's 130. And then they were talking about Crawford. Crawford's 10 pounds north at 140, going north to 147. He's on his way to 147. Right. So realistically, and then you talk about Roman Gonzalez. Roman Gonzalez is at 115. That's 15 pounds. There's no way he beats Lomachenko 15 pounds north. No way. Lomachenko's just too big for him, So let's talk about who's in his division here at 130. I don't see anybody. Gervonta Davis and Jose Pedraza are going to fight for the IBF title. I don't see either one of those two giving him anything. Francisco Vargas, which he mentioned in the fight afterwards. I don't see either one of those two, giving him any problems. I don't see anybody underneath him. The only guy that will give him problems right now, to me, underneath him is Gary Russell Jr. I think Gary Russell gives him problems in a rematch. If he goes up to 135, Jorge Linares isn't going to last against him. Robert Easter, with his size, may give him some problems, but I don't know. Terry Flanigan and
that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, Terry Flanigan, I think, gets run over. I saw Terry Flanigan. He fought this weekend. We'll cover that, but I think he gets run over by Lomachenko. I don't see anybody.
What about Mike Garcia, Eric?
At 135, that could be a fight. That could be a fight. I still think that's a good fight.
Yeah, that's a good fight. Yeah.
I think that and maybe Robert Easter are the two competitive fights. And if he goes underneath, you have Gary Russell Jr. Yeah. Those are the three guys, realistically, that can give him fits. And I would favor Lomachenko in all of those fights. But let's see here. And Lomachenko started where? He started at was it 126? Is that where he started? Okay, 126.
126, yeah, 126. Yeah.
And I believe he did win a title there, yeah? If I'm not mistaken, maybe. I don't have it in front of me.
He beat Gary Russell. He won a title.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So Gary Russell, he got that title.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then let's see here, Lomachenko at 130.
But they're talking about the Pacquiao fight with Pacquiao going down to 140. Is that realistic for him?
No. Well, I mean, maybe.
No, they're actually talking about Pacquiao going down to 135 for this fight. If it was to happen.
That's not realistic. Why would he do that? That's silly.
If it's going to happen, I could see it at 140, but not 135. That would be too much weight for Pacquiao to lose.
Well, in fairness to Lomachenko, though, he's 5'7", the same size as Mikey Garcia,
right.
1 inch shorter than Floyd Mayweather. He's got a decent-sized frame. It's not unrealistic to see him fighting at 140. It's really not. So maybe that fight would be interesting with Pacquiao or with Crawford. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say. I think I would like to see him kind of work his way into the divisions.
Yeah, where else
before he takes on a top guy?
I mean, really? Yeah. I mean, he goes from 126. He was just at 126. He's been at this weight for what?
Right.
One fight or now 2 fights now.
And this is his second. This is his second fight at 130.
Right? So, why rush the guy like that? I mean, next thing you know, they're going to want him to fight Canelo. Wow. And I think it's just silly. Let him work his way in there. I mean, he's at 130. Let him work into 130, 135, right in there. And let him fight right there because he's got good guys. He's got really good guys. Francisco Vargas, I think, would be a good fight. But, Robert Easter or Mikey Garcia, those are good fights. I wouldn't mind seeing Linares and Flanigan either. I mean, those are good fights, too. You got Rancis Bartholomew up there at 135. Gamboa's up there at 135. I'd be interested to see, like, what a guy like Mickey Bay would do with him. You know what I mean? You got Petrov up there.
Right.
Verdejo, who's HBO's all over. So, I mean, you got enough fights there. You have enough fights there without talking about Pacquiao. Pacquiao's got his own issues up at 147. He doesn't want to fight anybody either. So if you're looking to,
matter of fact, I read
Go ahead.
I read an article about him yesterday, and we'll talk about that during news and rumors.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, if you're looking to get Pacquiao a fight, put him in there with Crawford. Why don't you do that? Why don't you go ahead and put him in there with Crawford? You know, that if that's the fight you want to make, you know, that's the fight that makes the most sense. Not Crawford and Lomachenko or Lomachenko and Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Lomachenko and Pacquiao's a silly fight, man. I don't want to see that. Pacquiao's a big guy. I mean, Pacquiao's 147, 17 pounds. And not that Lomachenko couldn't beat him or whatever, but, you know, okay, so he beats him, and then what? And then where does your guy go from there? Then he's got to lose all that weight to come back down. Because I don't think he could stay up there with those guys who got a little bit too much power up there, I think, for him not to grow in the division. So for him to just take that belt and go up, you know, he's fast and everything, and he's good, man. But again, the higher you go, the slower you get, and the power is going to play on you, you know. So realistically, what about you guys? I mean, I've named a couple of fighters. I would like to see him fight, you know, he called out Francisco Vargas. Let's see him fight him next, either him or Gary Russell. Those are the two I would like to see him fight next. What about you guys?
Well, no, I would love both of those fights. And talking about promoters, Francisco Vargas is already being promoted by Top Rank, so that could be easily made. And Vargas has not been in the ring since he had that war in June. So you're talking about a long layoff for him anyway. So now if you're going to get Vargas, now would probably be the best time to get that belt.
I wouldn't even mind seeing him back in there with Salido. I know people aren't crazy about that fight, but Salido gave Vargas all he could handle. Some people thought that Salido won that fight. So it would give Lomachenko a chance to avenge that loss to Salido, which I would not be against.
I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, Salido, and the way Salido kind of fought him aggressively, and it was kind of, you know, mauling a lot. This would just be an interesting fight to see if Lomachenko will fall into that type of trap again, where he's like lulled into a dirty fight, and he didn't start kind of waking up until the second half of the fight, which is where he started really hurting Salido, and he started, you know, using his skills as opposed to trying to fight Salido on the inside, which was Salido's game. So it'll be interesting to see if he just makes the adjustments right from the jump instead of waiting midway through the fight. So
yeah, I'm not real crazy about a Salido fight, to be honest with you. I mean, clearly Lomachenko's a better fighter. It was a second pro fight.
Yeah.
Look where he is now. What do you?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you want to, fight in between a big fight, that's it, I guess. But what about you, Robert? Who do you want to see him in there with?
Well, I honestly would love to see the Mikey Garcia fight, but is Bob Arum willing to work with Al Heyman? I mean, that's the thing, and remember, Mikey Garcia left Bob Arum to go to Al Heyman.
Tough.
So I don't know if Bob Arum would hold a grudge and not offer Garcia that fight.
That'd be interesting, man. That's a real interesting dynamic right there. I would think so, but yeah, that's a tough one right there, man. Tough one. All right, just a side note, man, if you're listening to us on YouTube or anything like that, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, man. Hit the thumbs up button. Again, we don't ask for money or anything like that. We just ask for subscriptions. Subscribe to Beating the Odds with Beeb or Ringside Reporter on iTunes, and then hit the thumbs up button, man. Tell your friends about us, and that way it gets us noticed and that kind of thing. Again, we'll never ask you for money. We all have jobs here. We don't ask for money here.
This is not a pay-per-view boxing podcast.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
free.
There's no pay-per-view here. Nobody buy it anyway, So there you go. All right, let's move ahead here. We'll talk about Terry Flanigan. We just mentioned his name a few minutes ago. And Robert was very upset about this. Orlando Cruz, Terry Flanigan versus Orlando Cruz. Robert, very upset. Orlando Cruz misses his chance to become the first openly gay champion, as he was knocked out by unbeaten Terry Flanigan in the 8th round. Robert, when you heard this news that the first openly gay champion had lost and your people had really missed a chance, what went through your mind there?
Wait a minute, Eric. First of all, I'm not gay, so they're not my,
It's nothing to be ashamed of.
It's not my people.
Your people.
I'm not gay, okay? But no, I kind of figured that Flanigan would win this fight. I
did too.
I haven't seen Orlando Cruz enough to really judge him as a fighter. So But I kind of suspected that Flanigan would win this fight. And, of course, Flanigan is possibly a future opponent for the guy we just talked about, Vasyl Lomenchenko, because how long is he going to stay at 130? I mean, once he cleans out that division, I'm sure 135 would be next.
Tell me that's not a big fight in England. Undefeated Terry Flanigan, you know what I mean? That's a big fight, man. That's a huge fight over there. I tell you what, I didn't see the whole fight. I saw some clips of this fight, and I tell you what, Orlando Cruz looked tiny compared to Terry Flanigan. Terry Flanigan looked like a monster in there. So it was almost like when they came out and I watched this, I was like, whoa. You kind of knew it was a matter of time. Terry Flanigan was just a bigger guy, just huge compared to that guy. All right, so let's talk about another guy on the British scene. This guy's getting a lot of press. I mean, I'm hearing his name all over. I never got a chance to see him fight, but I did this weekend, courtesy, of course, of Davey Boy Essex. And it is his name is Boy Jones Jr. Beeb, have you heard of this guy, Boy Jones Jr.?
I heard of him, but I haven't really seen the fights yet.
Yeah.
Any of his fights. So I'm interested in checking this guy out too.
Yeah, I got the film from Davey Boy. You got to check it out. He's, his name is Ben Jones. It's just a marketing, I guess Boy Jones Jr. is just a marketing thing, kind of like Boy George or Roy Jones Jr. is a play on words here. But his name is Ben Jones, so it's clearly just a marketing thing. But Boy Jones Jr. won a unanimous decision over Martin Hillman this weekend. There's a lot of buzz around this kid, man. He's unbeaten. He looks pretty good. He's a tall guy. He's really tall, thin, and looks pretty good. I think he's only got 11 fights in. He's 11 fights in, so, he's still young, but there's a lot of buzz around him. So just kind of keep your eyes open for him. And also, too, much to Robbie's chagrin, Olympian Katie Taylor made her pro debut and scored a third-round TKO over Karina Kopinska. This was a debut, honestly, I was expecting from Clarissa Shields. Taylor looked very good in this fight. She looked very well schooled, took her time, and broke down Kopinska and eventually got her out of there. It was good stuff, man. However, I thought that, like I said, man, with the way she debuted, I was really, this is what I was looking for with Clarissa Shields, But obviously Taylor looked really good. She threw hands very well, moved away from punches, had very good footwork, very strong counters, everything like that. She looked very good. The problem, though, is that she's promoted by Eddie Hearns, so this will probably be the last time we ever hear from her. So there you go.
Oh, wow. The best promoter in boxing. That pumps me up. I'm excited to see her.
That's right. The best promoter in boxing.
Eddie.
Said nobody ever. 323-870-3857 if you want to call or give us your 2 cents here. We're going to go to the phones here in just 1 second. 818. 818, you are live.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I'm in an airport, so you'll have to ignore some of the background.
That's okay. Who are we speaking with?
First of all, thanks for putting on the show.
Absolutely.
This is Max calling out of Tokyo, Japan, actually.
Oh, no way.
Wow, Tokyo, Japan.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, I was a big fan of you guys. Used to follow one of the other shows that will not be named that you guys used to be a part of for a long time.
That's right.
And there you go. There you go.
I always enjoyed your insights better than the host and some of the other characters on there. So I'm glad that you guys started up your own thing.
Awesome.
So a big thanks to you guys on behalf of all the fans. Just wanted to drop a quick word. Lomachenko is just, when you see a fighter like him, the only thing I can say is that I regret that this isn't the 40s where these guys would be fighting every month. So. Because he's really something to watch. Especially I want to say his upper body movement, the way that he can just kind of stand in front of a guy and still not get touched is really, you have to go back to sort of Sugar Ray Leonard at his peak. You got to look at, Floyd when he was kind of a little bit less defensive, maybe early in his career, but I just love watching this guy fight. And right now, I can't see anyone who could give him real problems. I agree with Gary Russell Jr. because I think Russell is phenomenally athletically gifted, And their first fight was, I thought, pretty close. So hopefully Russell's kind of done well and learned since then. But I just kind of feel like Lomachenko is just on some next level stuff right now. And, regarding Walters, it's tough, right? I feel, I was watching the Sky Sports feed, and those guys kind of said, he doesn't look right. Like something doesn't seem right with him right from the start, like you guys pointed out. And I think it probably is a money thing or some type of arrangement that they had that didn't come through. So I feel like the guy is really talented. If you can knock out Nonito Donaire on a big card, I think you're good enough to be at a pretty high level. And I hope that he can kind of maybe take some time to figure things out and come back strong from all of this. Of course, fans are disappointed, as they should be. But, I got to tell you, the only thing I can say is I'm an amateur fighter out here. And sometimes, just from personal experiences, sometimes you're in the ring with someone whose level is above you. And to be honest with you, after a while, you're just waiting for the rounds to end because you're just like, I'm tired of getting countered over and over again, for my trouble. So just to give a little bit of an insight, I know it's tough and people are angry, but I do feel a little bit bad for him. And I just hope that he could get it together and come back. That's the only thing I can say about him.
It's a different story when you're in there, isn't it? It is. When you're in there with somebody better than you, and they're countering
it really is.
And you start off and you're saying, I can hit this guy. I know I can hit him. If I can just time him this way, I can hit him. And then pretty soon you time him and maybe you hit him, maybe you don't, but maybe your punch doesn't have the same effect, or maybe you don't catch him clean. And you start to realize that I'm not going to catch this guy. And you're right. You're waiting for those rounds to go. It's tough.
With Mayweather, I remember early on, maybe 10, 12 years ago, when I first really started seriously watching, boxing. And, you used to watch him, a young Floyd, kind of do some of the same things and just not get touched. Everyone used to say, just put him in there. He would have never lasted with, like, Julio Cesar Chavez. And listen, I love Chavez. He's one of the greatest of all time. But there's a reason why he doesn't get touched. These guys aren't stooges, after a certain point. Maybe early on in your career, but they stand there, they just look all confused, and Floyd's right there in front of them. And I feel like it's the same thing with Lomachenko. Like, you could probably teach someone good upper body movement. You spend a couple of years really focusing on it, you could probably pick up a good rhythm. But the things that make a fighter like that great is what I think is like punch anticipation, where you could almost just tell what the guy's going to do. You're just 2 steps ahead of him at every time. And it can be really discouraging, when you're in there in the ring with someone who's that much better than you. And I really do think Lomachenko is that good. I know, and people, I want to say one other thing, because there's a lot of debate online about a lot of the criticism that Andre Ward has taken, as opposed to the fact that HBO is in love with Vasyl Lomachenko. The difference is I feel like they're both skill-based fighters, right? I don't think there's any doubt. Like, you will open up a textbook, these guys follow, this is how you would want your son or your daughter to fight. But I just kind of feel like with Ward and Bernard Hopkins, it's more of a neutralize my opponent, sort of strategically disengage, clinch up, break up the rhythm, and it's very effective. And as a boxing head, I respect it because I know how hard it is. It ain't that easy just to clinch someone and break their rhythm. It's hard. But in terms of watching on TV, if you were to say, bring in your girlfriend or like your uncle who's never seen boxing or something like that, and you want to bring him over and turn him into a fan, you're probably better off taking them to a Lomachenko fight than you are to a Ward fight, even though they're both in the same kind of skill fighter category, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on that.
That's a very great point. It's a very great point, and I agree with you. Definitely agree with you on that. Because the different mentality that Ward brings, that what Lomachenko brings too. Like, Ward's going to win any way he can. Lomachenko's going to win the more conventional way. I'm going to, box you in a more conventional way, where Ward will go out of the box to beat you if he has to do that. And that's the difference.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it. I'm about to get on my flight right now, so I'll try to tune in again some other time. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, thank you very much for calling, man, and have a safe flight, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the way from the rising sun. How about that? Very good. Very good stuff. It's a good call. And that's what I was referencing earlier. Just like I said, unless you've been in there and, especially if you go in the first day and if you've never boxed before and you go in there in the first day and they'll tell, they're not going to kill you they're going to take it easy on you. But even at that point, you're still inquisitive about it and everything like that. But once you've gotten some rounds under your belt and everything, and you go in there and you just have that guy who's just much, much better than you. And it gets frustrating. And I think that's what he went through that night. And I understand he's a professional fighter, but again, it still doesn't make that go away. So let's stay with the phones right now. 347, you are live. 347. No, you are not live. All right, they dropped. All right, that was in New York. What's that?
That was Monster probably calling.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe she calls back. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. All right. Let's go to the upcoming fights here. All right. So, December 2nd. Robert, you're my savant. Is that a Friday?
That would be a Friday.
My man. All right. So, on Robert's favorite station, Estrella TV, Abraham Lopez versus Sergio Lopez, 10 rounds featherweights. There you go. And on Unimas that same night, Jose Ramirez versus Gabriel Bracero, 10 rounds junior welterweights. Let's see here. In nothing else, nothing. At Philadelphia, and this should be, I believe this is going to be televised, but I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't have a TV on it. Tevin Farmer at Philadelphia. Tevin Farmer versus Darden Zunaj, 10 rounds junior lightweights, and Garrett Wilson versus Lamont Capers, 6-round cruiserweights. I would think that would be on somewhere. Tevin Farmer's a pretty notable guy. On Saturday, December 3rd, on BN Sports, Jorge Paez Jr., yes, he's still around, versus Johnny Navarrete, 10 rounds junior middleweights. Eduardo Ramirez versus Edivaldo Ortega, 10 rounds junior featherweights. Now, also on Saturday, you might have to stream this one, Denis Ledbedev versus Murat Gassiev, 12 rounds for Ledbedev's WBA and IBF cruiserweight title. And also, too, if you can, you need to stream this also. Edward Troyanovsky versus Julius Indongo, 12 rounds for Troyanovsky's IBF junior welterweight title. I'm telling you right now, if you have not watched Edward Troyanovsky fight, you have got to tune in. We have got to get him on our TV. He has got to fight somebody soon. This guy is the goods. I'm telling you, he is a very, very good fighter. I want to see him and Crawford fight. He's legit. He's the one that beat TBE Cesar Cuenca. Cuenca was 48-0. Troyanovsky knocked him out. Now, from Bulgaria, from Sofia, Bulgaria, on Saturday, no TV is listed. Kubrat Pulev versus Samuel Peter, 12 rounds heavyweights. Yes, Sam Peter is still around.
Oh, my God.
Right.
I can't believe that one.
All right. And from Paisley, Scotland, Billy Joe Saunders versus Artur Akavov, 12 rounds for Saunders' WBO middleweight title. So he doesn't fight all this time, and this is who he chooses to defend against. How about that?
Oh, my.
Oh, boy. How about that?
Well, my Raiders pulled one out of the fire, man.
Did they really? Did they win?
Yeah. 35-32.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. All right, let's go back to the phones here. 970, you are live. You are live.
Oh, my fault, fellas. I didn't know I was on.
No, you're good.
What's going on? How we doing?
Pretty good. What's your name?
Hey, it's your boy. It's your boy, Hand Raps. I call it.
Hand Raps. Yeah. How are you, man?
What's up, brother?
I remember you.
Yeah.
What's up,
Hey, man? Hey, I logged in a little late. My fault. I'm probably catching you guys on your way out. I didn't really hear your opinion, but I wanted to share mine on that Lomachenko fight, man. God damn. I called it last week. I said he was going to walk through his ass, but I didn't even think he was. Has anybody ever seen some shit like that?
It's like a hot knife through butter, man.
That was bad, man. I mean, it was.
Man, that was beautiful, man.
Wow. the way he just, I mean, it was a demolition.
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, oh, without question. I mean, that guy Walters couldn't get near him. He couldn't touch him. He couldn't, he couldn't put anything together offensively. He was outclassed, just completely outclassed. And a fighter of Walters' caliber to be outclassed like that in that manner, like I said, man, I picked Lomo to win, man, but I didn't see that coming. Not like that.
Damn. Yeah, man, I did not expect that. I expected Lomachenko to walk through this guy, maybe even win every round. And the first round led me to believe this was going to be a great fight. Second round, I was like, oh shit, this is going to be good. And then we started to see Lomachenko take over. I said, okay, I expected. Let's see how this kid's going to react. And after them showing us something like Ward, courageous fucking comeback, and then all of a sudden for this fight to be just like the follow-up, I just thought that was such a letdown, man. That was fucking horrible. This guy's quit on his stool. I've never seen fucking anything like that. And I know that everybody who says they've been in the ring and they have empathy for this man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I've been in the ring too as a young kid. I boxed this kid named who's actually turned into a pro. You may have heard of him. He took me out. His name Mike Dallas Jr.
Wow.
When we were kids, we were in the PAL league together before he went to the Olympics. The kid hit me with a fucking right hook to the gut. But you know what? I couldn't get up because if you know anything about one of them fucking body shots that are right on point, man, I swear I'm still kicking myself to this day because I know that feeling Walters was feeling. Fuck, man, I can't beat this fucking kid, right? But to just quit on the stool, man, nah, you got to get taken out with a shot, man. Nah, no respect, no respect for that, none.
Man, oh man,
anyways,
no sympathy, no sympathy,
time, no empathy, son. None, man. No, you got to go out from a shot, bro.
Wow.
No, he joined the Victor Ortiz club, man. Come on.
Robbie.
Wow.
Please, Robbie. Please.
Guy holding his head in shame
All
today,
right.
boy. Holding his head in shame, man.
All right.
Very good.
Hand
man.
wraps ain't pulling no punches.
No, he
tonight,
sure isn't,
baby.
is he? He's
Nope.
not, man.
No.
He's got a point, though. He's got a point when he talked about Ward. And like I said, I mean, Ward was, like I said, man, outclassed in the first 6 rounds of that fight. And he really gutted it out. Whether you agree that he won or didn't agree, you could tell he gutted it out. I mean, he was trying. He was trying to win. Whether, you thought he won or not, he tried to win.
Yeah.
And then you go to that fight and he just went up to the 7th round on the stool.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem, Eric, because you see other fighters who have set the bar so high, especially, champions, and Walters was a champion at one point. And, the bar has been set so high by other fighters. You see Muhammad Ali, who fought with a broken jaw. And again, you can sit there and say, well, look what happened to him after boxing. But at the end of the day, when you look at the Arturo Gatti, you look at the Mickey Wards, and you look at even Andre Ward last week, that's what people remember. And, you could sit there and compare this to Roberto Duran. And Roberto Duran obviously went on to do great things after the Nomas fight, but people to this day still bring it up. They still make movies. They made a movie about it, which that was the highlight of the movie, him saying Nomas, basically, and they did the ESPN special there, the 30-30 on the whole thing. So that lasted, and that still lingers 36 years later. And Nicholas Walters is no Roberto Duran, so I don't know if he even the great Roberto Duran couldn't erase it, so how's Nicholas Walters going to do that? So it is what it is. It's going to follow you around, man.
Yo, man, just because you said no mas, you don't get that pass, dog.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I heard the quarterman say, no mas, no mas. You use the same pass, dog.
No.
All right, but what about this now? What about this? You think about the irony here, man. Again, one day, it was November 25th, 36 years ago, with the No Mas fight with Sugar Ray and Roberto Duran. Almost 36 years to the day, one day after. We have this fight. Both guys, like I said, Roberto Duran from Panama. This guy lives in Panama now, and they both said no mas. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's That's what I mean by you can't use the same path. You didn't tell me these motherfuckers in the corner didn't know that. They knew that shit, man. They were trying to. Come on, man. They were trying to play that card. That shit don't work, dog. Get out of here.
Yeah, they ain't gonna make no Nicholas Walters movies, man. That ain't
No.
Yeah, I hear you, bro.
Movie's gonna be called Axeman, you know. Yeah, he's never living this one now. All right, man. You too. Thank you.
Thank you for the call, brother.
Yeah, he's never living that one down, son. That's it. That's it.
Nah, man. This shit.
All right. Let's try this. Take two, man. Let's try 347. 347, you're live. 347, you are live.
Uh-oh.
347, you're on the air.
All right.
Maybe they just want to listen.
Maybe they just want.
Sometimes if you're on your phone, you dial in. Yeah.
Just want to listen.
That could be.
All right. We'll come back to him. Let's see here. Let's go to 508. Let's go to 508. 508, you are live.
Georgie.
Hey, people, what's going on?
What's up, Pie Face?
I can see that bitch real happy, huh?
Oh, yeah.
From this day, you'll be my new fool.
Hey, yo, I'm glad that the pie base has been paid, and I don't have to go through that with you no more, because I know I'm not gonna hear the end of this shit ever.
All right, well listen, we got you on the line. So hey, Beeb, give me a minute. You want me to play the video and do the screen share?
Yeah, play the video, man.
All right.
You're the tech guy.
All right, let me go. Go ahead with your take, Georgie, while I get this thing figured out here.
Okie dokie. Well, first of all, I feel real sad for Walter, but I'm more heartbroken because, man, everybody was expecting more, man. He was bad enough that he got washed. And on top of that shit, you try to fucking make your corner quit for you? That was as low as you can get. I don't think this man will ever recover. Ever. He just he committed career suicide right there. I'm not about him mobbing. I was one of his supporters. I was hoping, man, at least headbutt this man. Elbow him. Low blow. Get disqualified, baby. If you don't want to go down with your shield, at least get disqualified. You know what I'm saying? I just don't quit. That's heartbroken, baby. I don't want to even get into it no more. I'm just going to let it be. He took his L. Hopefully we don't see him on TV for a long time, because I don't want to see him. You know?
No, after last night's performance, he doesn't deserve to be back on TV for quite a while.
Yeah,
hey, Georgie,
he got to go, down the list somewhere deep down. Fuck that.
Hey, Georgie, the Mafia wasn't involved in this one, though. This was just a straight decision for Walter, right?
Most definitely. There's no conspiracy theory here. The man just he lost fans square. There's nothing you can say. This dude just wasn't there. He can come out with 1,000 excuses, but right there, you just see him, clear as it gets. But I would like to take a second to talk about scoring. Because in this time and age, people get bamboozled with the scoring. And I want to tell people, I don't know how many times I got to say this, but fights are scored on punch landed. That's it. Ring genocide, effective aggression, and all that, that's secondary. That's when a dude landed 10 punches and the other one landing 11. Then you go to that. But when a dude landed 2 or 3 punches more, it's over. If you want to see somebody go pose, go get the GQ magazine or get fucking Vanity Fair or some of that shit. You understand what I'm saying, Beeb?
I got you, man. Hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you how to score fights. If you want to, everybody has their own lens when they're scoring these fights.
But it's not. No, hold on, time out. I'm sorry, baby, but it's not. You're here to educate people. You're here to that. We cannot be spreading this ignorance in the web. And then everybody knows, but he got aggressive. He got a aggressive style, and he make it look silly. Okay, he make it look silly, but the other guy was more busy. He trying to make a fight. If the guy misses a punch and you don't make him pay, you can post 3,000 times. Don't matter. It's about landing punches. Everything else is when the shit is so close. Then you come up with that aggressive aggression and everything else, you know? I mean, this is basic. And somehow people use these excuses about how to score a fight. My dude, punches landed. That's it. That's it. Another thing I want to say, the people who got Ward winning, they say it was a close fight. But somehow they don't have an even round. If he was so close, how come he don't got an even round?
I don't like going even round. I don't like going even round.
It's about argument being made.
I've never scored
such a close round.
I've never scored a round.
Even round.
You have to give it to one guy or another.
Even rounds is something that have been on boxing for a long time. This is nothing new. And this is what the argument about people saying that Kovalev won. It just goes down the way. Because they don't have an even round. Oh, what's close? Okay, so what's the even round that you got? Oh, no, I don't got none. So that's bias. That's bias right there. But anyway, guys, you always having a great show. I tell everybody to support. And let's see that video.
All right. Georgie Porgie.
We're gonna pull it up.
All right. So, all right, Beeb. So I might need you for this one because it's not letting me share the screen for whatever reason. So you have the screen share in yours. Do you have the email?
All right, let me try.
Just the email you sent me?
What I'm going to do is I'll go to, I'm going to go to the YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel, so I could play it. I'll see if I can try. Or you could try to open up play it up from my YouTube channel. Let me see if I can try and do this here.
Okay.
I want to try and do this.
Yeah, Google is.
Oh, you know what I'll do? I could post the link. Let me see.
I would like to touch on another thing real quick, guys, about pound for pound. Because a lot of people are saying Lomachenko, it should be on the pound per pound, like at least third or fourth, somewhere around there. And when you're talking about pound per pound, a lot of people say, oh, we got to look at resume. That's another mistake people do. I don't understand this. Like I'm dealing with fanboys. You cannot look at somebody's resume on pound per pound. You know why? Because pound per pound means that doesn't matter what weight division he's on, he will be anybody. So you got to base his own skills on the eye test. It's so pound for pound. It's not resume. It's eye test. What you see on that guy that tells you that he can be in any division and beat everybody. And I'm mistaken here.
What do you think of? Let's talk about that for a second, because Lomachenko, I heard them last night talking about he's could be the best pound for pound out there, and maybe so. But I think the jury's still out on that. I don't think you can have 8 pro fights and then all of a sudden you're the best guy out there. Maybe you're the best in the division, this and that. But I just don't think that you're going to be the best guy out there. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe
how much is eye test? How much is eye test on pound for pound then?
Well, I mean, look at Ward. All right, Ward won the Super 6. He just beat Kovalev. He's got a legitimate claim to it, But I tell you what, the whatchamacallit, you talk about like say Lomachenko, he's beat some good guys, but has he beat that kind of caliber? And look at Floyd Mayweather. When he was out, I mean, he fought everybody. He's fought a lot of people. He's fought a lot of good people past their prime. Yeah, maybe, but he's fought a lot of names there. So, it's tough to say one way or the other.
Mayweather, you can see the God-given talent. Mayweather got the best reflexes, I think, that anybody ever on boxing. You talk about reflexes, you see Mayweather in the dictionary. So on eye test alone, we can put Mayweather up there, no problem, regardless who he fought, because we can see the talent on the man.
Right.
So I don't know. When I do pound for pound, it's all eye test. maybe the record, yeah, maybe like 40% I will base it on record, but since most of it is just eye test. Why? Because you're talking about multiple weight divisions. So you got to imagine these fights on your mind. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of a silly
really
thing.
The record don't mean anything because it's a certain division. Unless it's somebody who I go 122, 126, 130, you know what I'm saying? That have dominated few divisions, you already seen it. So that helps you a lot. But if I do got like 45, it be only in one division, then you got to use your imagination.
Right.
You know, use not your imagination, but you got to use your criteria of what you see and the skill that man shows you.
Well, and there's so many.
So that's my take on that.
There's so much of, as far as like pound for pound goes, there's so much, you know, that goes into it that, you know, it's a fictitious thing. So it's just like saying who's the best ever, or who's the best, you know, it's just fictitious, you know, so it's kind of difficult to say yay or nay, you know.
Well, Eric, that's my whole problem with the pound for pound list. I mean, why should we even create a list? Because, you know, you put everybody up there from different divisions. I mean, it's almost like these college football rankings. You know, each week they pick out the best 4 teams. Well, how are you going to know how good they are unless they're able to go against one another? Well, when you put together this pound for pound list, when you put heavyweights in with light heavyweights and you've got small guys in, I mean, if you're going to create a so-called list, wouldn't you want to create a list where it's actually going to be competitive, where maybe you could see some of these guys fight one another one of these days? I mean, right now, the way they do it, they got Roman Gonzalez on the top of the pound for pound list. And most of the guys underneath him, he would never have a chance to fight because he's too small. I mean, I really have a problem with the so-called pound for pound list. I don't think it's needed in boxing, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm all wet, but that's just my opinion.
All right.
You're right, Robbie. You're right. That's what I'm saying. Like, pound for pound, it's sort of like fictitious. You know what I'm saying? We could be spending the whole show just arguing who you think is pound for pound, and we're never going to end it up in a, you know, an unanimous decision. We're not going to agree. It's just that simple.
All right, so Georgie, let me cut you guys off here. Let me cut you guys off here, because I think I got the video here queued up and ready. You know. Hey, hold on.
Who's that handsome man over there? So handsome man. Who's that?
That's right. Let me tell you this, Georgie. I'm going to give you some props here because you didn't have to do this. You know, you could have just welched on the bet, but Georgie paid up. And I'm going to tell everybody this. Georgie paid up. Now, we're going to make a lot of fun of Georgie, no question about it. But let me tell you what. A man pays his bets, and Georgie Porgie is a man of his word.
Thank you. I appreciate it, you know, because sometimes people start rumors and whatnot, and I always be a man of my word. So anybody out there to listen to somebody else with paperwork, don't listen. Just listen to this channel.
And there it went just there. All right, let me try this again here.
I love it.
Start the screen share. Why are we not? Oh, there we go.
Hey, yo, this is Georgie Porgie. This is for the Beebs. You beat me, I guess. Wasn't fair and square, but I said I would take a pie. I'm not gonna go fancy, straight up cream pie, because I got robbed though. So I'm not gonna pay for a full pie when you motherfuckers rob me. But this is for you, Beebs. All right, baby? Here goes. Wow. The fuck.
Shit.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
There you go, man. There you go. That was good, man. That was good.
Marshmallow Man with that, right? Puerto Rican Marshmallow Man. Now you've seen one.
Hey, props to you, man. Like Eric said, you didn't have to do it, but whenever you've made a bet, you've always honored it. And,
that's the thing.
Props to you.
That's the thing.
You have my respect, Georgie. You know that.
Absolutely.
Hey, Beeb, you gotta give me the rematch, though. You gotta give me the rematch.
Of course, I'll give you the rematch. Of course,
I'll give you the rematch. That's what's up. Everybody out there support this channel, one of the real channels out there. We got to give him all the support that we can, because these people come here for free, baby. Really think about that. They come here for free and give you this shit every week. So support, thumbs up.
Absolutely,
you, Georgie.
man. Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you for calling, man. And more importantly, thank you for paying up and being a man of your word, man. Thank you so much. So there you go.
All right.
Georgie Porgie.
From this day, you'll be my new fool.
Let's go back to 347. See if I can get 347 back up here. 347, you are live.
Hello?
Hello, 347, you're live.
You're on.
Yeah, my name is Nick.
How you doing, Nick?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a great show.
Thank you, sir.
What's up, Beeb?
What's happening, brother? How you doing?
All is good. What's up, Ringside Robbie?
Hey, we're doing good. Thank you for calling.
The Lomachenko fight, it was a good fight, but people are saying that Loma should be pound for pound, or he's like Willie Pep and he has a little Roy Jones. For me, they should just probably pump the brakes on this guy, because yes, he can box, he can pivot and move good, but he hasn't been tested as yet. You don't know if this guy has a good chin where he can take a good shot. I think if this guy was at 135, Crawford was at 135, Crawford would beat him. But a lot of people are saying that the fights are fixed. Well, I don't know. People are just saying the fight was fixed, but the Lomachenko, I think he has over 300 amateur fights. So any fighter that has over 300 amateur fights, you must be a good fighter, because you can't have 300 amateur fights and not be a good fighter.
Not only that, 301 loss.
His amateur record. Yeah, his amateur record is 395 wins and only 1 loss.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah, so that alone would tell you he is a good fighter, but he still needs to be tested. It's the same thing to do with Triple G. Everybody's saying Triple G is this high level, and then when he fought Kell Brook, and now people are saying that he got exposed. So maybe when he fight upper, I would like to see him fight Gamboa. That would be a good fight. I think Gamboa fights at 135.
Yeah, I don't hate that fight.
Yeah.
That's a good fight.
I'll
take it.
That would be a good fight to him to fight Gamboa.
Absolutely.
Because I think Gamboa would give Crawford his toughest fight.
Yeah, I think so too.
And the Kovalev fight, huh?
I think so too. Yeah, go ahead.
The Kovalev fight and the Ward fight, if you actually flip the script and Ward did exactly the same thing that Kovalev did, knock Kovalev down and make him retreat most of the fight, the most fan who was supporting Ward, they would have cried blood. They would have said how Kovalev was retreating, he got knocked down, and he didn't get the win of the fight. They would have said the same thing for Andre Ward. If you flip the script and Andre Ward did the same exactly did what Kovalev did, they would have cried blood. They would have said how he got robbed in the fight. What they're saying, Ward did enough to win the fight. They make a fair point. But you have to beat the champion, they always say, clear enough to win the fight. Any close wrong, you probably give the champion the benefit of the wrong. If you flip the script and Ward knocked Kovalev down and had him retreating most of the fight, there's no way nobody would have said Ward lose the fight. You flip it, they would have said no way he could have been losing the fight. But obviously, it's a Rocky movie. Rocky went to Russia, and the Russian can't beat him. So what makes you think that Kovalev is Russian? I mean, he lives in California or whatever he lives in, but what makes you think he's going to come here and beat Ward? So in the rematch, I think Ward is going. If they do fight in a rematch, Ward is going to win, because Kovalev, they're too sour over the whole thing. And sour grapes is not going to make them win the fight. They have to correct their mistake, what they did, he allowed Dre to go to his body too much and whatever the case. But in the rematch, I think Ward is going to be definitely win the fight, and he can win the fight clear. Even though I had Kovalev winning this first fight, I think Andre Ward is going to beat him this second fight. It's going to be a similar thing to, well, not similar, but how they had when Mayweather fought Maidana in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah.
When Maidana put it on Mayweather, I actually thought Maidana was going to do well, and then, you know, but this fight is, you know, when they had Roy Jones fought Tarver, and the first fight they had a controversy.
Yeah.
And then Tarver went in the second fight and knocked him out.
Yeah, I remember.
Yep. So, you know, it's going to be, I think Ward is going to win the second fight clearly because he's going to make that adjustment. And Kovalev is a good fighter, but not a great fighter. And the Lomo, I think for me, I'm a casual boxing fan. I don't want to be a hardcore boxing fan because I think people go too crazy. I think I need to pump the brake. I'm actually pumping the brakes on whether this guy is really good. I know he's good in his movement, but when somebody can hit him and see if he can take a shot, then you don't know how good he's good or how he can respond. Because so far he's been avoiding people's shot by pivot and moving and making them miss. But when you get somebody as good and can come to you as good as you can come to them, like how Ward was doing to Kovalev, and Kovalev was doing to Ward, then you will see how he can respond. And if you do get knocked down, because he won't be lost already, so he's never said he can't lose. So when you see if he gets knocked down, if he can get up and respond well, like how Ward did, then you will know how good this guy is. And the whole pound for pound thing, that's all a money making thing. That's the bill a star. When you say a fight is pound to pound, that's building a star. When you want somebody to build up and get recognized and become a pay-per-view star if they can make it. Because if you're talking about pound to pound, the heavyweights can beat everybody from the low division comes up. Deontay Wilder, we're talking about AJ from England, they can beat everybody. Fury, Klitschko, they can beat all of this. So who's pound to pound? If they can beat all the fighters, then how the other fighters in the low division can be pound to pound?
Okay, caller, if you can hear me, you're actually getting muffled right now. We got you on mute right now. I'm going to bring you back off on mute, but your voice is actually getting real muffled. It's hard to understand. Go ahead.
Yes, what I was saying, the pound for pound list.
So do you think? Okay, so do you think that Lomachenko belongs on the pound for pound list?
No, I don't think he belongs on the pound for pound list. Not in the top 5. Not in the top 5.
No. You think it's too early for that? Too early for that. So who is your top pound for pound fighter?
You have to see. Well, the top pound for pound fighter who they have there, except for the small dude. What is his name?
Chocolatito?
Gonzalez. Yeah, I think that's a joke, but that's all about building a star. You're trying to build star, and you said they're the pound for pound. But that's a joke. I think Andre Ward should be number 1 because he beat Kovalev, even though it's a controversial decision.
It's got a good
but
argument
he should be
for
number 1. Triple G should move ahead Kovalev, and Kovalev should be number 3. Triple G should be number 2.
But
and you
okay,
probably
so
can put.
Let me ask you a question. Why is Chocolatito a joke to be on the pound for pound list? You said they're just trying to build a star. Is it because he doesn't move weight classes? Because now he's a 2-belt title holder in 2 weight classes.
Exactly.
All right. Well, then if that's the case,
46 wins.
Yeah, he's got like 46 wins. But okay, so if that's the case, let me ask you this: then why is Triple G on the pound for pound list? He's never been out of any class except the middleweight. He's got less wins. Why is that any? No.
I'm saying the pound for pound on the 5 people that they put out. I don't agree with how they have the 5. Who should be number 1? But if in my eyes, if I was to pick someone, I would have to go through other fighters. But I'm just talking based on that 5. I don't believe he should be number 1. I believe Dre should be number 1. The Triple G should be number 2. and Chocolatito should be number 3, and then you could put Kovalev at number 4. I'm just talking within the 5 that they chose. I don't agree with how they put it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Ward being number 1. Yeah, I don't have a problem with Ward being number 1. I think, like I said, I mean, over time he's earned that place. Whether you like the fact that he beat Kovalev or not, whether you agree or disagree, the fact is he got the nod, so he won the fight. So you still have to keep him as undefeated.
Right,
so
exactly, and that's
it is what
it
is.
By.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I don't hate that list at all. No, and a lot of people are putting Chocolatito on the top of that list or Triple G, but yeah, I've always had Ward on the top of that list, honestly.
But okay, so the last fight that Chocolatito fought, how did you score the fight?
The last fight that Chocolatito fought?
Yeah, how did you score it?
I had a very close.
Face all beat up like that.
I had a very close, and I had Quadros coming on, but I still had Chocolatito winning the fight by 1 or 2 rounds.
Yeah, I had a 7-5 for Chocolatito myself.
Yeah, it was very close, and Quadros made a heck of an effort in the second half.
Yeah, it was close. Very close.
But besides all of that, I think for the Lomachenko, I think people should just pump the brakes and see if this guy could really take a punch and how he would respond to fighting good fighters. Maybe they should put him against Vargas, and then I don't know what's the relationship with Bob Arum and who is promoting Gamboa, but Gamboa would give him a good fight. That would be a nice classical fight between the two of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with
that.
You
agree with that?
Absolutely. And, you know, I tell you, I think that I couldn't agree with you more on them pumping the brakes on Lomachenko. And not that he's not a good fighter, not that he won't be a great fighter. Don't rush this guy. Don't put him into situations where it's not beneficial for him.
Don't rush the guy. The guy is like, you know, he's just, how many fights he have now?
7-1. 7-1, or he's now 8-1 maybe? Or I think
exactly.
8-1.
8-1, and you're gonna say he should be in the pound for pound? Wow.
Right.
That's why I prefer to be a casual boxing fan and not hardcore, because I just think some fans, they go overboard, and I said, oh, this, like Max Kellerman is saying, Loma is the best fighter out there. Really? Loma is the best fighter out there when you had Salido rough his ass up? Come on, man. That's just nonsense people talk, but they're trying to build Loma, making him so if he can become a star like Triple G or whatever the case. But I just think they need to pump. Like Triple G has a lot of amateur fights. You expect them to be good fighters. If you have a lot of amateur fights and you win in your fight, you have to be good. You cannot be a bum fighting amateur fights and winning fights, obviously. But to say a guy has 8 fights and you put him in and you praising him to this high, you know, in this high category, and I just think it's nonsense.
I agree. I mean,
I would pay money if it was pay-per-view. So
those guys
and Lomachenko.
Those guys on HBO had him the top pound for pound last night. Max Kellerman said he's probably the top pound for pound guy out there. They've already got him moving up to 147 to fight Pacquiao, 17 pounds north from where he was. This is only his second fight at 130. He was at 126. Come on, man. Come on. You know.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the way how they sometimes they talk things. And last night they were praising him, but he's not a fighter like Andre Ward. He's different because he moves a lot with his feet and he pivots and he twists his body and he would place the shot nice body shots and stuff. And I'm gonna say, okay, well, yeah, he's a good boxer. So when Mayweather is a good boxer, what do they say with Mayweather Pacquiao? Oh, that's a stinker. But yet for all you praising Lomachenko. But when Mayweather fought Pacquiao, you saying it's a stinker. Well, you know,
well, it was
one fighter, and yet for all you saying
it was. And I mean,
it was a stinker. But the thing is that they're putting the blame on Mayweather too. Like everybody know how Mayweather box.
Right.
Everybody knows that how Mayweather fights.
Well, I think
you can't.
I think a majority of that, a majority of that went both ways. I mean, when you're making 100, and you can praise, because that fight last night was, left a lot to be desired too. It was a dominant performance, but at the same time, you have to look at it from a business standpoint. You're giving these guys $100 million each. I mean, they both made over $100 million for that fight. You know, not to mention the money it took to put it on.
I never believed Pacquiao can beat Mayweather. I never believed that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Styles make fights, and I do believe that.
But
Styles
I think you're comparing apples to oranges, though. I think you're comparing apples to oranges when you're saying, well, they're heaping praise on Lomachenko because he beat this guy in the same fashion that maybe Mayweather would have beat him. It's apples and oranges because at that point you got to talk about the money factor. You got to talk about the 4.5 million people that tuned in and paid $100, you know, to watch that fight. You know, and I use that term loosely. So
because and how much else did the 4.5 million wanted Mayweather to lose? That's why they're paying. The most people that pay for Mayweather fight pay to see him lose, and he never loses.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. But you can't really, you know, you're criticizing him. You're trying to criticize. I think you're making the point that, you know, we're heaping praise on Lomachenko for doing the same thing that Mayweather did. And I'm saying you can't really compare that.
As a good boxer, but you don't praise Mayweather. You say Mayweather is boring.
Well, they don't have the same style, right? But they don't have the same styles. You can't tell me they have the same styles. They don't. Because Lomachenko is more of an offensive fighter.
They don't have the same style because Loma is a more entertaining
fighter,
of course.
Right.
He takes more gamble. Pretty Boy Mayweather he was that good.
He was that guy.
Money Mayweather is all boring.
Right.
He's all boring, yeah.
I get you, man.
Yeah, I agree with that because I used to like Pretty Boy Mayweather when he used to go and stand right there and he would slip you and come to you good. That's what I like about
stand right in front of you. You couldn't touch him.
Money Mayweather, I don't like Money Mayweather. I want to ask a question. When last year they was paying Walters $500,000 for this fight?
So, that's what they said last night.
Yeah, I think he got paid. I think it was.
That's the reason why I think Walter quitting them. You guys just pay me $500, now you pay me $3. You guys expect me to take a beating from this guy for $300,000? I might as well quit early.
Well, from what $200,000
less. So
the contract said.
I'm going to take.
The contract, from what I understood, the contract said $300,000 or something like that. But from what I understood, he was actually getting paid $500,000 to $800,000 for this fight. That's what I understood it to be. That's what I'm hearing.
That was the first offer, right?
And he wanted $1 million.
No, the contract the contract that he signed for this fight said $300,000.
Oh, okay.
For this fight said $300,000. Okay. From what I understood, he was going to make quite a bit more than that, and they predicted in the 5 to 8 range, 5 to 800,000 range. Okay. So he was getting paid for the fight. Lomo was getting paid more.
Right, but Walters wasn't he? He was offered $500,000 in the last fight. So when it was the first offer to him,
I don't believe he was. No, I don't think it was. I thought it was like right around 300.
Lomo was going to take 200 or 250 out of if you beat me.
Yes, that's when Lomachenko said take 300. Right. Yeah, it was something like that.
Right, exactly. And he, I want to say something. Right, who was promoting Walters at the time? Not Bob Arum?
Yes, Bob Arum. I believe he was.
I believe it's Bob Arum.
Yeah.
This is something similar happened to Boo Boy at 154 when he decided not to take the fight because what was offered to him by whoever's the case, and he thought Jay-Z's going to give him a better contract, and it didn't work out. How long did he went without a fight? So the promoters teach a fighter a lesson. You don't take what I offer to you, then you end up not getting a fight for a whole long time because then Andrade, the same thing happened to him when he did not take the fight, and he wasn't even fighting for like 8-9 months. He disappeared.
Yeah. Something like that.
So I think the promoters teach the fighters a lesson when they don't do, and you take the fight will be offered to you, then you sit your ass and you shut up. We will not get you a fight.
I agree.
But the same thing happened to him.
All right, Nick. All right, man, we're going to go ahead and get running. I appreciate the call. And thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for listening. It was a good call. Very good stuff, man. All right, let's go to 203. 203, you are live. 203.
Hello?
Hello, 203, you're live.
Hey, how you doing? Hi, it's Destro from New York. How are you?
Hey, man, what's going on?
We're good. Hey, so let me ask you, what do these three guys have in common, right? Miguel Cotto, Vitaly Klitschko, and Mikey Garcia.
Layoff.
Promoter issues, layoffs.
So these are guys. So these are guys. They're all regarded as, well, Mikey Garcia is kind of questionable, but these are guys who went on to be great champions. They're quitters. I mean, Miguel Cotto, he quit against Margarito. Right?
Very
He
much.
was taking a hell of a beating, and I don't think Margarito's gloves were loaded, but he quit in that fight. I think it was like around 9 or 10. Vitaly Klitschko, he quit against Chris Bird, right? He said his arm was injured or whatever, and he quit.
Didn't he also quit against Lewis?
No.
No, he wanted to continue. No, actually, he wanted to continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, and Mikey Garcia, when he fought Salido, and Salido started coming on, and Mikey Garcia was getting tired, he quit. Said he broke his nose. I mean, so these are three guys who quit. Miguel Cotto, Klitschko, he's Hall of Famer.
Okay, I can't.
Yeah, it's windy.
I know it's windy. We put you on hold. We will come back to you. Okay. We couldn't. It was too much wind. We couldn't get you here. So in the meantime, let's go to 718. 718. You're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing? How you doing, Habib? Yes,
Hey, Suleiman.
How are you, my man?
Yeah, this fight was a good fight. It was an interesting fight because you got to see our technique. I mean, I like his nickname and everything. His nickname is awesome. It's an exam. That nickname is perfect match for Lomachenko because Vasyl was fighting beautiful there. And it also shows his maturity. Not only does he have a great amateur pedigree, but he shows his maturity in the ring. And this is the problem today. Nowadays, modern day fighters, these guys, I don't know what they're doing in the gyms. They're not being taught game plans. If one game plan doesn't work, they're not being taught another game plan or a third game plan or fourth game plan to one work. These guys they go in there. They're used to fighting these small fighters like Walters was doing, and everybody was giving him a lot of praise. So he thought what he was listening was true. And now he went in the ring with a guy like Lomachenko, which was a high degree kind of fighter, and he just quit. He plus his trainer wasn't giving him no advice. You know what I'm saying? He could say, style number one is not working. Switch up your style and see if you connect with something that works. But he wasn't doing that. And Lomachenko is small. He has a lot of technique. He's willing to trade. And I think his next fight should be against Salido. That way he could get that out of the way. And to tell you the truth, I think CD will give it up. CD's style and his style will mesh because CD has a game plan. He's very assertive. He might be a little faded, but he's assertive, and it might go 12 rounds. It'll be a spirited fight, and that's what we want to see. You know what I mean? And then after that, he could create his legacy for himself, which he's creating already by fighting other opponents like Francisco Vargas and all these other guys. But I think he should stay at 130 and clean up that division and then move up. I mean, something like a Floyd Mayweather, like that classic Floyd Mayweather style. And you guys have a great night for giving me the opportunity. And sorry the Phenomenal lost last night. And you guys have a great night. Thank you.
You too, man.
Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. All right. Now, I believe it was Deathstroke that called from the 203. I believe it was 203.
I believe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. He dropped off. So if you call us back, we'll put you back on. We had to put you on hold and then call drop. So
keep one thing in mind. You have to keep one thing in mind, everybody. If you want to participate in the show, you have to call in before 9 or the phone lines will turn themselves off. So
right. Phone lines turn into a pumpkin at 9 o'clock.
Get yourself lined up.
That's right. Yeah, and I just want everybody to be able to hear you too. When you call in, I mean, if it's muffled or something like that and they can't hear you, I want everybody to be able to hear you clearly and everything like that. So there you go.
Right.
All right, let's move on with the news and rumors here. Adrien Ward, the rematch clause. Okay, so there's one thing we found out immediately after Ward-Kovalev, the fight, is that there's a rematch clause, and Kovalev is going to use it immediately. However, Adrien Ward has a different tone now. He basically said that if they want to negotiate a rematch, they have to realize the terms are going to be different now. He said, I'm the champion now, and as long as they realize that when they come to the table, we will be able to make the fight. Do you think, Robert, I'm going to ask you, do you think Ward will honor the rematch clause?
And unfortunately, no, because Andre Ward has a terrible history of getting his way out of contracts. Now, what I don't like about this situation is both fighters agreed to this original contract, and there was a rematch clause already in it. Now, I don't know how the rematch clauses work, but I'm assuming you have to start. When you do a rematch clause, I'm assuming the same terms apply. I mean, I'm not sure how that works. I don't have a legal background, but I'm assuming there's some framework in the contract that the contract basically set up similar than the way the first contract was set up, because otherwise I don't think legally you could put a rematch clause. I don't have a legal background, but that's just my guess. But Andre Ward has a notorious history of talking his way out of contracts. I mean, that's why he was out of the ring for over 2 years, because he didn't like what Duva and main events were doing. So it took him 2 years to get his way out of that legal mess. I have a feeling Andre Ward is going to use all of his legal tactics to avoid Sergey Kovalev and not give him a rematch. But I really wish I had a better legal background to understand how these rematch clauses work. But I'm assuming the terms are somewhat similar. Beeb, do you have any idea?
I was listening to Kathy Duva being interviewed after the fight on YouTube, and what she had said was there was a rematch clause in place. And someone asked her, because the fight ended so controversial, would you like to have the fight somewhere else besides, America? Would you like to bring it somewhere else? Maybe Russia. And she said, well, the terms of the contract were that the fight could not be in Oakland and could not be in Russia. So, I think the rematch, I don't know exactly the terms of the rematch, but for the most part, when you do a rematch clause, I would suspect, just as you have said, Robbie, that because the rematch clause is in place, that the contract is pretty much laid out there. But Andre Ward said something very interesting too after the fight. He said, "I'm not going to negotiate a fight right now." Or when Max Kellerman asked him, "Okay, would you give him a rematch?" He said, "Yeah, but I'm not going to negotiate a fight right now." So any contract can be renegotiated. Any contract, you can find loopholes to get yourself out of contracts. There's ways to do it, ways to finagle it. I'm going to hold Ward at his word. I think he's going to want the rematch. I think he does want the rematch, particularly after all this controversy and all this negative press. So, yeah, I do. I think that there will be a rematch. But my only question is, he said that he's the champion now, so, he's going to dictate terms. Well, it seemed like, the fight was already in America, so that's kind of an advantage. When it was in Vegas, I mean, it's not California, but it's about 3 hours away from California. And as you noticed, the majority of the fans in that audience were Ward fans, and I'm sure they took a 3-hour drive to get there, number one. Number two, he already got the lion's share of the purse, even though he wasn't the champion. He got $5 million, from what I understand, got a $5 million guarantee, and Sergey Kovalev got a $2 million guarantee. So the only thing I can think of where he's talking about, we're going to dictate terms is maybe the pay-per-view is not going to be 50-50 anymore. Maybe the pay-per-view, maybe he's going to try to angle to get himself 60-40 or even 70-30. I don't know. But, I think the rematch will happen. I'm just curious, will he throw some demand out there that makes it so hard for Kovalev to accept the fight? I don't think that will be the case, because Kovalev already took short money being the champion to fight him the first time. So I think Kovalev will do anything that he has to get the rematch. The only question is, what is Andre Ward talking about when he says we're going to dictate terms? We're the champion now. It's going to be different.
One thing I think you could see. I don't think you'll see this fight back in Vegas. I don't think you're going to see it in Oakland. I don't think you're going to see it in Russia, but I don't think you're going to see it back in Vegas either. You're either going to see it like in California, like in LA or someplace like that, or you're going to see it like in New York somewhere.
I was just about to say. I was just about to say, in fairness to Kovalev, he has a big following in New Jersey. He's fought in New Jersey a lot. I think it would be real cool to have the fight in New York, and people from the East Coast could travel and go see this fight. Maybe I would consider going to New York to watch this rematch if it was in New York.
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting. I think New York would be a great place to put this rematch.
Yeah, but I don't because of the controversy though. I don't think it's going to be back in Vegas. I do see it like in either L.A. or New York or someplace like that. Because I don't think Ward or Kovalev is going to want this back in Vegas.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like I said, when Kathy Duval, like I said, when Kathy Duval was bringing Kovalev up, she did have him fight in New Jersey a lot. So
yeah,
they may try to put the fight in New Jersey, and then Ward would probably say no, and then a good compromise would be New York.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I would think Ward would want the fight out of New York, but that's just me. That seemed like it would be very pro Kovalev, for sure. All right, so let's move ahead here. Lucas Brown test positive for drugs again. Lucas Brown's promoters said they are hugely disappointed after the Australian heavyweight returned to second positive drug test of the year. He was on the WBC clean program. He volunteered for this and he failed. Brown tested positive for the banned substance ostarine, used to aid muscle recovery 7 months after he tested positive for clenbuterol following his win over Ruslan Shagayev in March. He was later cleared after claiming his food was deliberately contaminated, and Hatton Promotions say his recently failed test should not call the exoneration into question. The boxer volunteered for the test as part of the WBC's clean boxing program. Now, let me read you this next article here by Lucien Butte, and we'll tie this in together in a minute here. Lucien Butte has been cleared to fight after testing positive as well. Lucien Butte fought Badu Jack in April of this year. He was actually suspended when he failed the drug test. He tested positive for ostarine, which helps, of course, muscle recovery and stamina, just like we just said. He was sentenced to $50,000 fine and time served. He just fought in April. So he was sentenced to time served. He can start fighting now at any time. My guess is, and the big thing with Lucas Brown is he's got a fight coming up against Shannon Briggs. So this is a big deal. I don't know where this leaves that fight. My guess is he's going to pay a fine, and
it's going to happen.
It'll be fine.
It's going to happen, they said.
Yeah, the
fight's going to happen.
They are. Yeah, okay. So he'll probably pay a small fine, and then go ahead and the fight goes on, which is really irritating, to be honest with you. I mean, and it just, we talk about, VADA and the WBCs. It's not VADA's fault. VADA just tests these guys and tells you, hey, VADA, VADA goes in and they test them,
He's got the dirty pee-pee.
And that's what they tell you, So it's not their fault. It's the WBC's. Now, let me ask you, Beeb, are they really trying to clean up the sport, or is this just a money grab for the WBC?
I've always said that if it's up to the organization, and if the organization and the commission, because the commission has nothing to do with with VADA, so VADA is an outside testing source. So there's so many moving parts here, and to assume that everyone's going to be on the same page here, because everyone has their own interests. WBC wants their sanctioning fee, the commission wants their fees. VADA is already getting their fee as well. So everyone, is concerned about getting covered on the back end here. So again, it all comes down to money. It really all, as you said, is it a money grab? It quite possibly could be. Quite possibly could be. You just have to put the perception out there that we have the testing, we have this, but it's like anything else. You can sit there and say, oh well, the food was contaminated. Oh well, I took a supplement. I didn't know it was in the supplement. And a lot of times on these bottles, the supplement bottle will say, be aware that, taking this supplement could result in you failing a drug test. It'll say that right on the bottle. So, I don't know about anyone else out there, but whenever I read, take a supplement, I read everything on that bottle, and I just want to know what's in it. So, and I'm not an athlete. I'm just a freaking 47-year-old armchair quarterback right now. So the thing is this, I'm not an athlete, but I care about what I put in my body. So these guys are just taking these supplements, they're just taking stuff, and then they're going to sit there and say, well, I don't know. I didn't know what I was taking. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. It's really, really hard for me to believe when you have guys who are making millions of dollars, or at least several hundreds of thousands of dollars, that aren't going to be concerned what they're putting in their body. You hear statements like, oh, well, I just gave him these shakes. Freddie Roach said, oh, he just had these shakes, Manny Pacquiao. We didn't really know what Alex Ariza was putting in them. I mean, Manny Pacquiao is worth tens and hundreds of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, right? He's a commodity. So you're the trainer. You're getting 30% of that or 20%, whatever the case may be. So, it's important for you to know what Manny Pacquiao's taking, what's going on, because that's your fighter. And for the fighter to not care about what's being put in his body, knowing that he has to be in prime condition, knowing he's being tested, knowing, the side effects to every drug you take, and you want to know. To sit there and have me believe, or have the public believe that, hey, I didn't know, or I did this, I did that, these conspiracy theories and all this, bull crap that's out there, it's a joke. So, I don't care who's taking what. I think all, PEDs should be legal. I don't even care. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to test for them and you're going to make them illegal, then, follow the protocol. Don't just sit there and say one thing and then go ahead and turn around and do another, because it just sounds like you're blowing smoke, which is what the WBC is doing right now. You can't blame VADA. VADA's doing their job. But the WBC is sitting there and they're getting the information from VADA, and they're not really putting much stock into what VADA says or any stock into what VADA says, and the results that come back from the test. They don't care because they're still letting the fights go on.
Well,
so
yeah.
I think this whole program is a joke.
It's really looking that way. It's really looking that way.
It's a smoke screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. This is interesting. So let's move ahead here. This is really interesting. The fact that this story is not our train wreck of the week just lets you know how bad the train wreck of the week is. Adrien Broner needs some attention. On Thanksgiving, Adrien Broner decided that he wasn't getting enough attention. So he decided to have an Instagram meltdown. He posted the following, and I'm going to quote this. I ain't even go to my mama house today, SMH, which means shaking my head. In the comments he posted, I'm trying to kill somebody tonight. Hashtag about bodies. He then posted another comment that read, I ain't celebrating bleep. I ain't happy right now in my life. What an attention whore this guy is. I mean, this is on Thanksgiving. He needs another trip to Las Vegas with Floyd. What is this? Who does this? I mean,
he's a fucking mental case is what he is.
I mean, right? I mean, what else could this be? What else could this be? What are you doing? Unbelievable. That, believe it or not, is not the train wreck of the week. Beeb, it is now time for the train wreck of the week. Beautiful. Love it.
All right, let's get it going, baby.
Nick Blackwell, 8 months ago. Nick Blackwell was sent to the hospital after his fight with Chris Eubank Jr. Blackwell almost died after that fight. I mean, he was beat up pretty bad. He was told that he would not and should not ever fight again. Blackwell made headlines a couple of months ago when it was announced that he wanted to open his own gym. Everyone was really happy for him and that he had moved on and he's still able to participate in the sport that he loves. Fast forward 8 months after the Chris Eubank fight. This idiot got into the ring and actually sparred. Who knows how many times this has happened since that fight? All right. Anyway, this apparently got pretty serious. This sparring session landed Blackwell in the hospital again. According to doctors, he's in stable condition and very lucky. What an absolute moron. Beeb, he's British. Answer for him.
This is a case of someone just being in denial, man. I don't know, man. When you suffer a head injury, obviously that's a red flag that you're not supposed to be doing what you did that caused that same head injury. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, the worst thing that could ever happen to you after suffering any type of concussion or any type of you know, brain bleed or what have you is to go back in and allow your skull to be hit again. So this false sense of security about putting the headgear on, sparring with the big gloves. Listen, once you've been damaged, it doesn't take much to do further damage to you. When you put that crack in the chandelier, you know, all you got to do is ping it a little bit, just a little bit, and it's gonna crack like a little rock in the windshield. You know, you have a little rock in the windshield. Someone walks by and goes ping, that windshield cracks. So, you know, people who are you know, in his camp, his family, his handlers, his management team, somebody needs to just pull this guy aside and just say, hey, you know what? It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
You got to get a 9 to 5, bro. It's done. It's done. So.
Yeah,
what else can you say?
It's crazy.
It's awful, man. I realize that, you know, once you love the sport, it's hard to get it out of your system. But when it might cost you your quality of life, it's time to wake up. I mean, that's why in the National Football League now and in the NBA, they have what is called concussion protocol, which means if the doctor on the sidelines suspects that you might have a concussion, they pull you directly out of the football game or the basketball game, and you go through examinations before you're allowed to continue. Maybe boxing needs to put something like that in place. There needs to be an independent neurologist that can immediately test these guys before a fight, after a fight, things like that, to prevent people like Nick Blackwell from doing what he just did. I mean, he suffered a catastrophic, serious injury 8 months ago. I heard the fight. It was devastating. Chris Eubank Sr., who we don't really care for very much with the way he's treating his son, but he even had to tell his son in the corner, hey, you need to ease up because you got this fight won. We don't want to seriously hurt this dude. If the other trainer in the other corner has to tell you that, you know, then it's time to do something else. You know, I mean, how ridiculous.
Well, there's a reason why Chris Eubank Sr. said that to him, because Chris Eubank Sr., you know, ended up ending someone's career too. And
yeah, I know that.
Believe, yeah, so that's why he knows.
Yeah.
He definitely knows.
Absolutely.
You know, so.
Absolutely. And 203 is back on the line. We're going to go to him in just a second here. But let's continue with the news here for a second. David Haye versus Tony Bellew, or Pretty Ricky Conlon, whichever you want to call him, is set now for March 4th at London's O2 Arena. The two wasted no time going in on each other. In an interview after the fight was announced, Bellew laid into Haye for being past his prime, and Haye had some jabs of his own for Bellew. These two don't like each other, man. It's not a front. They don't like each other, and I cannot wait for this fight. This is going to be good, man. Beeb, are you excited for this?
I'm really excited because I really do like Tony Bellew. Tony Bellew is an extremely exciting fighter, and so is David Haye.
I hope we get this on US TV.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, it's just very hard for me to see Tony Bellew beating David Haye. I mean, David Haye has been off. You know, he hasn't fought in the best competition as of late. But David Haye, you look at him right now, he's like 220, and he's solid. He's ripped, and he's still explosive. He's still a dynamic guy. And he's probably pound for pound the hardest puncher in the heavyweight division right now. You could argue that. You could still argue that. You know, notwithstanding Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, right.
You could argue that he's, with those guys, he's still the hard. Because you just see him hit guys and they just topple like a sack of potatoes when he hits them. So you know, it is what it is. I mean, I love Tony Bellew, but I just think this is a tall task. This is a guy who's really never fought at heavyweight, never fought heavyweight at all. He says he sparred heavyweights in the gym. Big difference, because you're not fighting top-tier heavyweights like a David Haye in the gym, I suspect. You're not fighting without headgear on. You're not fighting with the 10-ounce gloves. So, you know, this is just a dangerous, dangerous fight. I hope he's getting paid well for it. But with that being said, the interesting thing to look at is David Haye. He's an ambush fighter. He's like a Jean Pascal type style, goes in and out. He's another guy who throws those looping shots in the mid-range area. Not a guy who throws a ton of straight punches, doesn't throw a ton of jabs, doesn't set punches up. Tony Bellew is a little bit more conventional. They're both tall. They both have similar reach. They're both about 6'3". They both have about the same reach, 82, 83-inch reach. They both have long arms. So, you know, Tony Bellew can fight very effectively on the inside. Excuse me, outside, I meant to say. Can use range very well. So if he could try, and this is a big if he can try to keep David Haye at the end of his jabs, time David Haye coming in when he does dart in on his, you know, he springs in for that on-rushing attack that he likes to do, go in and out. If he could catch him on the way in, you know, then that could help him out. But the thing is can he hold off David Haye? Can he stop that forward momentum from that explosive, big, strong guy? That's a big if. I'm going to say no, but I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, then this fight becomes very interesting.
I'll tell you what, I think that a lot of people, a lot of the UK listeners and everything like that, they love David Haye is like revered in the UK. They love him over there. I think his best days are behind him. Of course, we'll talk about this fight more in March, but I think his best days are behind him. I think Bellew wipes him in this fight. I really do. I don't everybody talks about his power, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing, man. He's past his prime. You know, everybody talked about Tyson's power too when he was way past his prime, and he gets beat, you know, in 6 rounds by some nobody. So, you know, power is not the end-all, be-all, man. And David Haye is going to find that out, I think, on March 4th. Robert, what do you think of this fight?
I'm looking forward to it. That's why I said I hope it's on United States television. I'd like to see it, because that's the same day that Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia are going to fight. That'd be a hell of a doubleheader. David Haye, Tony Bellew, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman. Sign me up for some of that. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this.
You know what? I bet it's going to be on Showtime. I bet you any money they're going to do a doubleheader on Showtime.
I think Tony Bellew does. I think Tony Bellew does win, and I wonder what happens to his cruiserweight title. Does he compete? Does he compete as a heavyweight if he beats David Haye, or does he go back to cruiserweight and keep his title?
I think he stays a cruiserweight.
Both you guys are picking Tony Bellew.
Yeah.
Tony Bellew is going to be. He's going to be like a 6-1 underdog in this fight.
Yeah. So what? I mean, you saw. Yeah, but you know what? You saw what he did to Adonis B. Jordan and Creed. You saw him beat that guy. I mean, come on.
Yo, that was a real. He played a real good. He did a great job.
He was good. Wasn't he? He was good.
He was a good actor.
Both those guys were good.
He was really good, man. Good.
All right.
I love Tony Bellew, man. I don't know, man. I think this is a tall task.
All right. Louis Ortiz, who just fought, will fight again on December 10th. Louis Ortiz will fight David Allen on December 10th at the Manchester Arena. The fight will be shown live on Sky Sports Box Office.
90 seconds.
Guarantee that, you know, HBO is not going to show this one on there.
I know. I do know that HBO is supposed to show the Andy Ruiz Joseph Parker fight, though. I did hear that.
No, I didn't hear that.
That'll
be good.
December 10th.
Well, that'll be good.
Yeah.
So hopefully they show that instead. Sad news to report here. Alex Stewart, former heavyweight, dies at the age of 52. Alex Stewart passed away suddenly last week from a blood clot in his lung. He was just 52 years old, man. Stewart was a very exciting big puncher, scoring 40 knockouts among his 43 wins. He fought everybody. He fought the who's who: Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Michael Moore, and many others, man. So wish him and his family the best in getting through this tough time, especially around the holidays, man. That's a tough time. Tough thing, man. Tough thing.
Yep.
All right, so let's go to the phones real quick. We're gonna, and before we go to our fantasy tournament, we're gonna talk to area code 203. 203, you are live.
Hey guys, sorry.
Sorry about that, man.
I was walking my dogs. No, you did the right thing. I didn't realize this. So when I was walking my dogs, and I live by LaGuardia,
10 seconds.
everything. So I didn't realize you guys could hear all that.
Right.
Yes. So the point I was making, right? So look at Miguel Cotto, Vitaly Klitschko, Mikey Garcia. These are guys. I mean, they all intents and purposes, they quit at one point in their careers, and they made good comebacks. I mean, Victor Ortiz, he's an exceptional case, and I mean, we realize he's more like a basket case than anything, you know. Nicholas Walters, I feel he can, and boxing fans, like, we have short memories. I feel like you're only as good as your last fight, and I feel like, you know, 1 or 2 fights later, if he's dominant and he looks sharp, you know, as long as it doesn't. Actually, so remember, Miguel Cotto, after he quit, after he quit against Margarito, his next fight, I think, was against Claudio. He suffered a really bad cut over his eye or something. And in that, after that fight, during the post-fight conference, when he was still in the ring, he said he would have quit. He was thinking about quitting because of the cut, but he didn't quit because he quit in his previous fight, because he quit in the Margarito fight. So I don't know, maybe Walters, but, you know, it's like one strike, you know, you quit. Yeah, I don't think he could do it again. But, you know, to me, he didn't look sharp. He did look like there was a lot of ring rust. Lomachenko is, you know, he's cut from a different cloth. I think he's great, but I don't think he's what HBO. Actually, I was about to put the TV on mute. HBO, they were really, really digging. They were digging, like, so I was about to put the TV on mute. But Walters, I think it was ring rust, man. I think I was looking at him. I was like, he couldn't get his shots off. He looked, and I know Lomachenko's fast, right? But Walters, he never looked. He looked really, really slow and kind of like plodding around. And yeah, I mean, that's how I saw that fight.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I don't know. I don't necessarily know if it was ring rust. I mean, he'd been off for a while, but I don't even think if he had fights in between there, I don't think that fight really looks any different. I think that Lomachenko, his footwork is what really paid dividends in there. If you watch the angles this guy goes in at, he goes in, he comes out. I mean, just the angles alone are going to give anyone problems. I don't care how quick you are, how hard you hit.
Yeah,
and
you're right. But so two things. So one, I feel like Walters, I was thinking it'll be a closer fight, a better, more competitive fight, because the Walters fight that stuck in my mind was the Walters versus Nonito Donaire.
Yeah.
That was like the Walters I kept thinking, like, you know, that's what but he was the guy that showed up, man. He was far cry from the guy who beat up, you know, who beat up on Donaire. But one thing that Walters could have been doing in the pivot, he was pivoting high. Walters should have pivoted low and pivoted with his guard up. He was just pivot with his head up. It was kind of weird.
Once that second round got over, once that second and you entered into the third and fourth round, I think Lomachenko had his timing down. He had Walters all figured out, and that was game over for him. I mean, that was one of those things, you know, you watch that fight and you could say, you know, yeah, maybe he did this, maybe he did that, but that guy was just completely figured out. And I was surprised too. Like I said, I expected Lomachenko to win, and I expected him to win, you know, pretty convincingly. It was going to be a sound decision. I didn't expect that. I mean, that was like, wow, you couldn't, the fact that 2 of those judges gave Walters a round, I was shocked at, you know, because I couldn't give him any round. I was looking, you know.
I think I did also. I deleted my scorecard, but I think I did give him a round. I did, I can't remember which round. I think it was maybe like round 3 or 4, but it was, I did give him, I found a round to give to him.
Yeah.
Well, you were being generous because that was a shutout, man.
Yeah, I think that's legit score. That's a legit score too. Speaking of legit scores, Reed scored the Kovalev Ward fight, and so I came up with 114, 113 for Ward.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched it last week, I scored 115, 112 for Ward. The difference this time, I gave Kovalev round 3 this time. But still, even on looking at it and the way I judge fights, like I'll judge it like a 12-round fight. I'll judge it as though each round is an individual fight. So like you watch I judge like thousands of amateur fights in the tri-state area,
New
York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Like, so in one night I would score like 25 fights in
Wow.
one night. And actually, let me make a quick point about this. What the commission needs to do, and one of my problems when I used to be scoring, judging fights, is I may get to the venue at 6 p.m. To put a weigh-ins and everything, and I'm there judging fights until like midnight. And by the time like 10 o'clock rolls around, like you start to lose your faculties, and you're not as sharp as you were. Mental fatigue. Because when you're like judging fights, you have to like keep constant focus and pay attention, and everybody's screaming. And if these judges are scoring, doing what I used to be doing, arriving at the weigh-in 6 p.m., and they're judging as many fights like it. So I'm not justifying, but I'm just saying that may be happening with some of these judges. But so when I judge fights, I'll judge it like a 12-round fight. Those are 12 different fights. That's what I'm looking at.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, round one. Who won round one? Who round one? And at the end. So like, and I think some people, they kind of put it as a continuum. Like, okay, no matter what happens in round 6, Ward still got hurt in round 2, and that's kind of lingering. I think people like dice it up into 12 different fights. And I'm not sure if that'll change the outcome, but that's just the way, that's how I do it. That's how I score. But
Right.
I still came out with Ward winning.
Yeah, a lot of people had, like I said, this guy's brilliant. We just had a guy in the chat said, please stop judging fights.
Well, I wish but I gotta say, and to the listeners, if you probably should consider getting involved with the amateur programs in your neighborhood, in your area. Some of the guys who are fighting now, Demetrius Andrade, Louis Rosa, who else? Broner. I never scored any of Broner's fight, but what's his name? Deontay Wilder. These are guys, like, I scored their fight. So I saw these guys in the amateurs, so now I've seen them on TV. And some of these guys, like Deontay Wilder, he's fighting the same way today. Mm-hmm. He's not as wild as he was as in the amateurs, but he's so similar, but he was knocking guys out in the amateurs too. So, I rejudged that fight, and it pretty much came up with the same scorecard. But one thing, I feel like that fight, the Ward-Kovalev fight, has really, really, like I'm seeing like boxing websites attacking other boxing websites, and journalists, like just people are losing their professionalism and just going crazy, like it was like like it should have been a blowout, but it's a close fight, and that's what happens in close fights. But people are really, really pissed off.
Yeah, I think that but I think that lets you know that what a competitive fight that was. The fact that a lot of people had it for Kovalev and a lot of people had it for Ward. It was a competitive fight, So yeah, I mean that's and it's different. And I tell you, and I know you can attest to this too. Being in the arena, being in the judge's seat, it's a lot different scoring a fight than it is on TV. It's you got the guys in front of you. I don't know that you have the ability to look at a monitor. You sure don't have the the ability to hear what they're saying on television. You have to look at the fight and you have to judge it. And there's a lot of pressure on you because they're looking at you because you're picking the winner,
So something strange. This is what used to happen, right? So, and I don't do it anymore because work is too busy. But so after a fight, like the coaches would be really upset. They'll come over and be, hey, I want you to watch this fight. Tell me, because like, let's say I didn't judge the fight. The coaches will come over. They'll have like, so I didn't officially judge a fight, but I would judge it because we'll have like 3 judges for a regular fight, 5 judges for tournaments. For the Golden Gloves, we have 5 judges. Maybe professional boxing should have 5 judges for championship fights. I don't know, but so let's say like I'm taking a break. I have like I'm taking 1 or 2 fights off, and I'm taking a break, but I'm still scoring, but not with as much focus or whatever. So the coaches will bring the phone over to me and tell me like, watch this one, like who won? And I'm like, from that vantage point, from what you're showing me on your phone, your guy did win, but who's to say that? What about the other judges? So it's kind of hard. So judging at ringside and watching it on the phone or on TV is different. But one thing HBO did do, and I feel like they're kind of Harold Letterman, when it's a blowout, I feel like he gets the scorecard right. When like Lomachenko, that's easy for him. But when it's a fight, a nip and tuck, where you really have to focus and pay attention, Carl Letterman 9 times or 7 times out of 10 he gets it wrong. I don't know. That's just my observation. So what's a blowout? It's easy. Like, you know, Stevie Wonder could see, like, you know.
Said everybody could have judged that Lomachenko fight last night. You know, right? Exactly.
Yeah, but what it really comes down, what it comes down to, like, really, like, you know, splitting hairs, or he's always off. So one last thing. So as far as the pound for pound, I think it's relevant. The way I look at pound for pound, like, I look at it like, if I had a son, right? Which boxer would I want my son to fight like? You know, how would I? And usually, and that's kind of how I look at it. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, and I look at it, all things considered, who's the best? Who has the best balance of power, speed, ring generalship, footwork, you know, ring IQ and everything, and put all that stuff in a blender, and, you know, whoever spits out, you know, with them, you know, those are like, you know, 10 guys come out, like, you know, kind of like put them in order. That's how I look at it. I think it's more than just a marketing ploy. I think if you go back to the reason why it's created, go back to Sugar Ray Robinson, where he's fighting at multiple weight classes, it's hard to categorize him, put him in so they, you know, to create the pound for pound. And I think it's relevant. And then one other thing, like, some guy, like, a guy may not be a hard puncher because he's not sitting down on his punches, but if he sits down on his punches, he gives up another attribute that he has, so he has to balance everything proportionately in order to be that, you know, that level of a boxer, that elite boxer that he is. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. All right. Very good, man. Very good. Well, we're going to get running, man. I appreciate your call. Appreciate you calling back, man. So that was great.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. All right.
Good call, man.
What a genius.
What a genius.
Now, Eric, before we move into the fantasy tournament, I do have some Pacquiao news.
Yes.
I read in an article yesterday, apparently Pacquiao was in Japan this weekend. And he basically said in the article I read that he has to fight in April or May because it has to work around his Senate schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And he told Bob Arum the only person he wants to fight is Mayweather.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. Nobody wants to see that fight again.
That's a great fight. I can't wait for the rematch this May. I'm excited, man.
I can't wait to not watch that.
So Cinco de Mayo is looking mighty good for Pacquiao Mayweather too.
And let me tell you this.
Man, it's going to happen. I already got my $100 ready and primed to just lay down, baby. I'm ready.
And let me tell you this. So, you know, I'm not going to pay for that fight. Not going to pay for that fight. Not only that.
Come on, Eric.
I don't even know that I'll watch it for free on Cody. I don't even know if I'm going to set it up for that. I was like, I might have stuff to do that night. I don't know. Yeah, but I probably won't even watch it on Cody. No way, son. No way. All right. Let's move into it.
You know, I'd like to say, you know, the best ever.
You know, I'm 33-0 with 30 knockouts. I'm the champ. Who's the best boxer ever? We're here to answer that question for you. 32 fighters, 3 judges, 1 champion will be crowned the best ever. This is the Ringside Reporter Fantasy Tournament. Here are your hosts, Eric Lorda and Joe Beeb.
I got to tell you, I love that intro. This is the fantasy welterweight tournament, and what we've done here is we put 32 of the biggest names in welterweight history together, put them in a big bracket, and each week we're going to break down the fights and give you the result according to the way we think it would have happened. The 3 judges for each fight will be myself, Joe Habib, and the 3rd judge. It's going to be a computer program. The computer will give its opinion on how the fight would have played out. All fights will be 12 rounds. We have 1 fight this week. The winner goes to the final 4. Sugar Ray Robinson versus Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Sugar Ray Robinson is considered to be by many to be the best fighter pound for pound in history. Thomas Hearns is also considered to be one of the best pound for pound fighters in history. Both won titles in multiple weight classes. You know what's interesting is Thomas Hearns, his nickname was the Motor City Cobra before it was the Hitman. Sugar Ray Robinson was from Detroit, not Thomas Hearns. Thomas Hearns was actually from Oklahoma. I just found that kind of interesting. Anyway, let's break this down. The power department. I have to give the edge in power. I've got to give it to Thomas Hearns. Beeb, I think Hearns was a little bit too strong. He's too big, too strong. He's punching downwards. I got to give him the edge in power.
Arguably, that right hand is the most deadly punch in boxing history. So I'm going to say yes, Thomas Hearns does have the edge in power.
Absolutely. You see what he did to Duran? My goodness. Maron, did you see that fight?
Oh, my God.
Second round, just knockout. All right, let's talk about the speed. This is a tough one because Sugar Ray is fast, but they didn't call him the Motor City Cobra for nothing, man. I think speed-wise, Hearns was bigger, and I also think he was faster. That right hand came out of nowhere. He had that piston of a jab that just right in your face. He could put that in your face all night, blinded you. He had that tendency to reach out, put his reach out there to blind you from that right hand coming over the top. He had when he measured your opponent or whatever, and then he dropped that right hand on you, he could throw. I just think that Hearns was a little bit quicker than Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah, I think Tommy Hearns was very quick. I'm going to say that Tommy Hearns was quicker, too, than Sugar Ray Robinson because he was just so explosive. He was like a fast twitch muscle guy.
Yeah.
Where Sugar Ray Robinson, yeah, he could punch. He was explosive in his own right, but I just don't think he had that level of explosiveness that Tommy Hearns had, particularly with that right hand. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Hearns with a little bit more pep in his step.
Yeah, I think so. Now let's talk about the chin. Now here, I don't think there's any question. Any question.
No.
Sugar Ray Robinson had 19 losses. One of them was a knockout, and he had 173 wins. So what is that? 198 fights. 198 fights total. He's been knocked out once by a bigger guy. Thomas Hearns has been knocked out four of the 5 times, maybe 5 of 5.
Yes.
And now he
lost one decision to Adrien Broner.
Yeah, that's what it was. And he was also knocked out by Adrien Broner. He was knocked out by Sugar Ray Leonard. All big punchers, no question about it. All these guys are big punchers. At the same time, because these guys have knocked out Sugar Ray Robinson, doesn't matter. Out of almost 200 fights, you get knocked out once, you got the nod. I don't care if you were fighting, sheep herders or what. You got the nod by me. You can take a shot. I think Sugar Ray Robinson's got the edge on the chin. Beeb, what do you say?
Yeah, Sugar Ray Robinson definitely does have the edge with the chin. But the thing, too, with Tommy Hearns is people criticize him like he would just get touched and go down. It wasn't the case. Like, Hagler had to put 3 or 4 to get him out of there. Like, Leonard did the same thing. It wasn't like he just hit him once and he shattered. So, yeah, he was definitely not as durable as Sugar Ray Robinson given their records. But I think, it's a little bit over-exaggerated that Tommy Hearns has, like, a glass chin. I just wanted to clear that up because...
No, not at all.
He would get hit and he would try... Yeah, he would get hit. You try to fight back, and guys would just put shots together to get him out of it. It wasn't like you could just blow him over and he would go away.
I agree with that. Yeah, he did not have a glass chin. He's been knocked out. He did not have a glass chin. Boxing ability.
No.
This is interesting. I looked at this over and over again, and Sugar Ray Robinson was a great boxer, no question about it. That being said, I think the boxing ability of Hearns, I think Hearns had a better ability. I thought Hearns used his style a little bit better. I thought he used his jab a little bit better. I thought he used his reach a little bit better. I thought he used his speed a little bit better. I thought, overall, I thought Hearns has more tools. I thought Hearns used the tools he has a lot better than Ray Robinson over the course of his career. So the boxing ability to me, I've got to go with Thomas Hearns on this.
This is the problem, too. We've talked about Sugar Ray Robinson because, as I said several times in the past, you don't have a ton of footage on him at welterweight.
Right.
But when you go on YouTube, you can find a lot of his fights at middleweight on there. And I will say this, he lost to guys like Carmen Basilio, Gene Fulmer, what's his name there? The Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta.
Jake LaMotta, right.
So he lost to guys Yeah, Jake LaMotta. He lost to guys whose claim to fame wasn't really boxing ability. These were guys who were smaller than him, shorter than him, slower than him, not as athletic as gifted as him, and arguably not as big a puncher as him. But he lost to these guys. And he was supposed to be a better boxer than those guys. But for whatever reason, he had a tendency, judging by these fights that I saw on YouTube, to fight the other guy's fight. So, you've seen him in other fights box very well. But for whatever reason, he chose to get up close and fight on the inside with these guys and kind of just fight their fight. He was in there. He was basically in their wheelhouse, basically, where he could have used the ring more and used his height and length more, but he chose not to do that. So he's gonna go in there with a Tommy Hearns who's taller, and you can say what you want about Tommy Hearns, but he set up his power more often than not. He really set up his power. It wasn't like he just went in there and swung for the fences. He was the guy who worked behind a long jab. He was the guy that would throw a left hook after that right hand. He would go to the body. And for a tall guy, he could fight pretty well on the inside as well. He could throw short shots, uppercuts, body shots. And he could throw that right hand in a lot of different ways, a lot of different variations. So I'm going to say that Tommy Hearns showed me in his career, more discipline in the ring, and he was just more cerebral in the ring, and he was just a more comprehensive boxer, judging by what I've seen, than Sugar Ray Robinson. And a lot of people like to say Sugar Ray Robinson was the best fighter of all time, whatever. Again, you can say what you want, but I'm just going by off what I see, and styles always make fights. So yeah, Tommy Hearns, I think, was the better boxer from what he's shown in his career.
I think so too. And let's talk about the X factor here. For me, the X factor here was Hearns' power and speed. And how is Sugar Ray going to deal with it? At no point in his career did he ever go up against anybody like Tommy Hearns. Did he, and again, you talk about guys like Jake LaMotta, you got to talk about guys like Carmen Basilio. He's never had, first of all, the reach, and we'll go over the tail of the tape here in a minute, but Hearns' reach is going to be huge in this fight. It's just going to be huge.
Yeah, he had a heavyweight reach.
Oh.
He had a heavyweight reach.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part about it. You know what I mean? I think that Hearns' power and speed is going to give Robinson problems in this fight. Now, whether Robinson can find a way to overcome those, and I think he might be able to, and I'll talk about that in the breakdown, but I think the power and speed, definitely the X factor for Hearns.
I think, yeah, the right hand is the X factor for Hearns because he just had a way of landing it on everybody. And he even landed it on Hagler when he busted up Hagler. He just happened to land it in the wrong part of the head on Hagler, and he ended up breaking it, and that totally changed the course of that fight. So he hit Hagler with it on the top of the head, didn't land it as flush as he wanted to, and he still busted up Hagler's head. That's how hard this guy hit. So, and he had one punch knockout power, whereas you could argue that maybe with the exception of Robinson knocking out Fulmer with that left hook in their fight, I think it was the rematch, if I'm not mistaken, he knocked out Gene Fulmer with a vicious left hook. And, with the exception of that, like Robinson really doesn't have any highlight reel one-punch knockouts. Tommy Hearns has a ton of them. He just put everyone to sleep with that right hand. That right hand was dynamite. So that's going to be the X factor for me in this fight.
Everybody talks about the one-punch knockouts with Hearns. Everybody talks about the Duran knockout in the second round when he hit him with that right hand. That was a beautiful right hand. But the one that I watched over and over again as a kid was the Pepino Cuevas fight. And he demolished him. Yeah. And it was that right hand, man. It was just an unbelievable, boom. All right, so let's talk about the tail of the tape here. Sugar Ray Robinson, 173 wins. Think about that for a minute. Wrap your head around that for a minute. Only 19 losses, 6 draws, 108 knockouts. Knock out 108 guys out, you got some power. Thomas Hearns, of course, 65 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw. Of course, disputed draw with Ray Leonard. Should have won that fight, but it was what it was. And 48 knockouts. Sugar Ray Robinson stands 5'11" to Thomas Hearns 6'1". Both weigh in at 147. The reach, and this is what I think could tell the tale in this fight. We'll have to see. The reach. Sugar Ray Robinson has a 72-inch reach, which is fairly normal. Thomas Hearns has an 80-inch reach advantage in this fight. So an 8-inch reach advantage, that is huge. Just a big advantage here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and break down this fight, and then we're going to throw it over to Beeb to break down. And actually, we'll go to the computer, and then we'll go to Beeb. So the fight's going to play out like this as I see it. Sugar Ray Robinson, to me, was in his welterweight prime in the 1940s. All right, now I want you guys to really pay attention to this. He was in his welterweight prime in the 1940s. Hearns' prime was in the 80s, some 40 years later. Here's the deal. We know that both guys can fight, but let's be objective here for a minute. Ray Robinson was a lot like Ali or Roy Jones in the sense that nobody had ever seen a fighter like this in his era. He came on the scene and was so much quicker, so much more skilled than everyone else. That being said, this was still a fighter in his prime in the 1940s. Okay? If you watch video of Sugar Ray Robinson, he was a lot faster than his opposition. He had a tendency to drop his hands to throw shots, which he could get away with. However, at no point in his career did he ever face anyone like Thomas Hearns. Hearns had an 8-inch reach advantage over Robinson. Not only that, but the speed and power of Hearns will pose a big threat to Robinson. Robinson will not be used to the kind of power that Hearns carries. Robinson will also be not used to being hit from that range. Tommy Hearns' reach is going to play a big part of that jab, the way he measures you and then drops that right hand on you. Hearns has the ability to get you out of there with either hand. But if Hearns does have a weakness, it's his left hand. That is the hand he carries very low in that Kronk style. If you look at all of Hearns' fights, every shot that he gets knocked down with, every shot that gets him in trouble usually comes from a right hand. And it comes from a right hand because he carries that left hand, almost down around his hip or his waist area, almost to his thighs in some fights. He carries it extremely low. And that was the Kronk style back in the 80s, man. If you watch every Kronk fighter, they all fought the same way. Robinson's biggest advantage in this fight is going to be with his best punch, and that's his right hand. Hearns can definitely be hit with the right hand if he's not careful. The question is, will Robinson be able to land the right hand, and will he be able to land it effectively? That, to me, is the big question in this fight. I just saw somebody in the chat say that he thinks that Sugar Ray Robinson would have went after his body, would have went after Hearns' body and gassed Hearns out. My question is, how does he get past the jab? How does he get in range? He's going to have a hard time. If you think about the difference in height, you think about the difference in range, you think about the difference in reach, how is he going to get inside? That's easier said than done. I see the first part of this fight being completely dominated by Hearns. I think he uses his jab and speed to frustrate Robinson. Robinson will know that he's outmatched for the first time in his career. I think during the middle of the fight, he will make some adjustments, but I don't see a way that he can actually win this fight. I see Hearns wearing him down, and once he does that, I see the odds of Robinson landing that big right hand going way down. That being said, I think Robinson is elusive enough to make a fight of it. The end will see the fight. The end of the fight will be a frustrated Sugar Ray Robinson. He'll do enough to make it to the final bell, but won't get the decision. Hearns will have been way too much for him. It's like this. You're looking at a 40-year difference in boxing eras. If you say that Sugar Ray Robinson wins this fight, then you've essentially said that boxing has not evolved since the 40s. My pick is Thomas Hearns via unanimous decision. That's how I see the fight. Now, before we go to Beeb's pick, the computer with 82% of the win margin. The computer pick for winner is Sugar Ray Robinson. Beeb will break the tie here. Beeb, break this fight down.
Okay. You made some great points about the eras, and I will say this, and it's amazing when you think about it, because when you look at welterweights in the 40s, they were obviously a lot smaller, because as time goes on in life, you see human beings get bigger, faster, and stronger, whether it be just through the food that we eat, the supplements that come out, sports medicine, sports science. So people evolve. And the ironic thing about it is, when you go back to the 80s, you look at welterweights, they were like, Sugar Ray Leonard was like 5'10", You know, Tommy Hearns 6'1". Other guys like Benitez, he's about 5'10" himself. So those guys were pretty big back then. And ironically enough, when you come and look at today's welterweight, they're kind of short. Like Danny Garcia's 5'8", Floyd Mayweather's 5'8". So it's kind of funny where when you try to apply the bigger, faster, stronger theory, it's almost like that era pretty much has the biggest welterweights, if you want to think about it. You know, obviously you can look at Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad, they were 5'11". Okay, that's fine. But most of the guys, Pernell Whitaker, 5'6.5", 5'7", whatever. So it's just funny. That was the golden era of welterweights, if you really want to look at it. You know, you had Roberto Duran, obviously was a short guy, but you know, a lot of those guys were big. They were big welterweights back then, and they could fight. So I'm going to say that Tommy Hearns did fight in a better era. It was a different era. The people will always look at that 173 win record of Robinson, and you know, he fought every 2 weeks or whatever. But in order to fight every 2 weeks, you can't go out there and fight killers the whole time. So these are when guys would fight in non-title fights, even when they were champions, and they would just basically have sparring sessions that were sanctioned. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like they would go out and fight killers, fight after fight after fight. Whereas Tommy Hearns was in an era where he fought killers, you know, time after time after time. And he may not have fought as many times as Sugar Ray Robinson, but every time he fought, for the most part, he fought someone that was dangerous. So, you know, I'm going to disagree with one point you made. You said that Sugar Ray Robinson's biggest punch was the right hand. I'm going to disagree with that. I'm going to say no, it was the left hook. And even Sugar Shane Mosley kind of emulates that punch where he takes that leap in, at that leap in left hook, similar to what Shane Mosley did, and even to some degree what Roy Jones did. And a lot of times, as I said, you know, as great of a boxer as Sugar Ray Robinson was, he had a tendency to fight down to the level of his position and fight the other guy's fight. So, you know, if he decides to try to be overly aggressive with Tommy Hearns and tries to, you know, leap in with that left hook and, you know, tries to measure him with a power shot, he's got to time him perfectly to land that left hook. Whenever you throw a lead left hook like that, you know, it's tough to time it perfectly. And Tommy Hearns, with the reach, will have the ability to keep him on the outside. So it's going to be hard, you know, for Sugar Ray Robinson to get close. So if you have a guy who has a great right hand versus a guy with a good left hook, and especially if that guy with the great right hand has a longer reach, the straighter punch is definitely going to get there before the hook. So the right hand will beat the left hook all day, every day. And that's what you're going to have in this fight. You're going to have the right hand versus the left hook. And add onto that a jab being thrown by a tall 6'1" welterweight with a heavyweight reach who actually throws that jab like a telephone pole. It's obviously not as hard as his right hand, but it's as hard as a lot of other fighters' right hands. So, you know, add all this up, throw this all into a blender, and what I come up with is Tommy Hearns is going to win this fight by decision. And I wouldn't be surprised if he stops him late, but Robinson was a tough guy. He was a tough guy. He was in phenomenal shape. So I'm going to go with Tommy Hearns by decision. I'm going to overturn the computer. And the problem with the computer is they're looking at, you know, records and statistics. We're looking at styles. And what is the old adage in boxing? Styles make fights. That's why you can take CompuBox, throw it out the window, take BoxRec, throw it out the window. I use these, baby. These two things right here. That's my judge and jury. Steve is going with Tommy Hearns by decision.
There you have it. Tommy Hearns wins via split decision 2-1. Tommy Hearns is moving on to the Final Four, and he will face either Sugar Shane Mosley or Floyd Mayweather Jr. My goodness. How about that? Robert, what are your thoughts?
Wow, that was a wonderful breakdown, and I think the right guy won. Emmanuel Stewart always knew how to work well with tall fighters. So, and Tommy Hearns was his first real example of that. I mean, so having a guy like that in your corner, I know they would have figured out a solid strategy to stop the great Sugar Ray Robinson. So I think the humans got it right. The computer messed up.
There you go. There you go. All right. All right. So before we sign off here, I want to give a shout out to our writers on Ringside Reporter that help us keep everything up to date. Our newest writer, Neil Cogram, is on Twitter at Behind the Fight, and Taylor Houck is on Twitter at TMoney928. Go ahead and go follow these guys. That'll do it for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Robert on Twitter at Ringside Robert, or you can call Ringside Robbie's Corner at 773-572-7781 and leave him a message. You can catch Joe Habib on Twitter at JHabib1 and find his YouTube channel at www.beatingtheoddswithbeeb.com. I'm at Ringside 73, and we will see you next week.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for
Take
using
care.
Blog Talk.